In that case, he can only ask the master to intervene. Not long after, Wang Sheng arrived at Mount Zhongnan. Unexpectedly, just as he reached the foot of the mountain, he encountered an old Taoist priest. They could only turn to Wang Sheng for help to stabilize the situation. However, this matter is too significant. Wang Sheng can only say that he will think of a solution. If all the sect leaders come forward, he won't be able to speak to his senior sister either. Many sects are surely coveting it in secret, and this is precisely what strategists are worried about. If things get out of control, the entire Taoist world might be in trouble. Just in case. Upon hearing this, Wang Sheng instinctively thought of the other party's Taoist title, Qianqing. He also studied under Taoist master Tianzheng. Could he be Shi Qianzhang's senior brother? It's not surprising that other sects would send people over. After all, the Heavenly Master's secret records are the foundation of Dragon and Tiger Mountain. He was once a disciple of Taoist master Tianzheng from Mount Longhu. A year ago, he was caught trying to steal the lower volume of the Celestial Master's captive scroll. After injuring a fellow disciple, he escaped. Now, Taoist master Tianzheng has brought people here, but I'm afraid other sects might also send people over. So he quickly cleared his throat to ease the awkwardness, and asked about the response from Mount Longhu. Have you made contact with them yet? Mao Yu responded while searching through the documents. Yes, and we have also confirmed that the identity of the sacred fire bearer is someone from Mount Longhu who attempted to steal and defect. Is it only the first 2 volumes? But as soon as he spoke, he realized he'd lost his composure. It's not like those impoverished days in his past life now. What user captured Celestial Masters? The Sacred Flame sent a nationwide announcement via a deep encrypted network. They are auctioning 2 volumes of the Tianshi secret records from Longhu Mountain, Daoqing. Wang Sheng's eyes widened in shock upon hearing this. Instinctively, he asked where the Tianshi Fulishu was. How much are they selling it for? Moreover, it is his support in the world. However, such peaceful days did not last long. Mao Yu called again. Taoist Wang, something terrible has happened. A few hours ago, he has gained the incredibly mysterious dual-winged sword technique. He also understands the path he must take in the future. The return to the mountain is only 2 days away. In just 20 days, Wang Sheng has made significant progress on this path. The sword behind him is his treasure. It is also his protective technique. That the sword shadow casually gifted by the master turned out to be a twofold yin-yang sword shadow. A sword shadow embodying both hardness and softness, yin and yang, spanning spring and autumn. This is what's called twofold yin-yang. The master only passed on this suggestion. It is because Wang Sheng has already stepped into the realm of understanding. Excitedly picked up her phone. Captured the precious moment of senior sister carrying second senior brother in her arms. Afterward, Wang Sheng, upon stepping into the stage of embryo formation, slept for an entire day before finally waking up. But what he didn't expect was, fortunately, senior sister appeared in time, and caught him. Afterward, senior sister signaled junior sister to advance. She carried Wang Sheng and walked towards the house. Meanwhile, junior sister gradually whispered to Zihua, truly understand it. This was actually the transmission of his master's teachings. Wang Sheng could hardly contain his excitement. Eyes wide open, then he fainted. The 6 realms of swordsmanship mentioned earlier may not be the end of the sword path, but they have pointed him toward a long future ahead. From now on, he should take his time to comprehend it. At that moment, the voice of his master echoed in his mind again. I offer you a piece of advice. The Tao's essence forms the sword's core. Once unsheathed, it looks down upon the world. Soon after, Wang Sheng opened his eyes again, gaining insight into his path. Form turns into formlessness. The sword can even flow continuously, never ceasing. It can also be unbelievably sharp. As for the 6th realm of sword forging, it uses the star sword as its sword soul, requires choosing a sword embryo, nurturing it day and night with one's own spiritual energy. To master the art of the flying sword, the 5th realm, the mind sword, is to abandon the sword for the sake of the sword. These are the foundations of the sword path. Any sword practitioner who has achieved progress usually comprehends these 3 steps first, before advancing to their respective realms. In the 4th realm, sword mastery, and focusing on enlightenment, the old master has used the sword for many years. Today, I will pass this path on to you. I hope you can comprehend it well. The first 3 realms of the sword path are sword action, sword meaning, and sword master. Upon seeing this, Uncle Gao immediately understood that the master intended to leave behind some guidance, so he politely excused himself and left. Afterward, the Grandmaster spoke again, restraining his spiritual thoughts, calming his mind, is that he must immediately consolidate his level. He needs to prepare to break through to the Golden Core stage. At this moment, the master looked at Pan Shi and sat down. The king, consolidating his realm, gathered a force of true energy in his hand. He directly pressed it down towards the top of his own head. After the breakthrough in the small town, Wang Sheng could feel the spiritual energy within him growing steadily. His true essence also became more refined. This must be the fetal transformation mirror. But the most urgent matter now In an instant, the surrounding vital energy converged towards him. He simply took a deep breath. The vital energy flowed into his body through the 7 orifices, eventually reaching a peak. Wang Xing let out a loud shout and broke through to the Jitai realm. I need a small space to exist. Heaven and earth should have a place for me. With the heart and spirit of this life, I received guidance from the master. At this moment, Wang Xing seemed to understand. Naturally, he wasn't on the list. To receive his guidance is truly a blessing for someone like me. At this moment, the mentor began to advise Wang Xing. Heaven and earth have no place for me. Then Wang Xing and senior uncle Gao continued sparring. At the same time, thinking to themselves, Qian is a name on the heavenly ranking, claiming to gather all the experts in the cultivation world. But mentors like him are rarely seen. But don't harm each other. Passing over the snake, one careless move, and you could hurt the other's Dao Jing. Alright, let's begin. He then sat down on the teacher's chair beside him, and began giving guidance to Wang and his companion. You two are too fixated on what is seen. Don't overlook the way. Sparring is sparring. But he was panicking inside. The master of my uncle's master, isn't that the highest ranking one in the mountains, the leader of the Qian family? The advisor smiled, and told Wang not to stand on ceremony. Then they heard the newcomer chuckle and say that both their master and uncle said that Qinjianzi was lucky to have picked up a rare famous sword. Naturally, I must come to appreciate it during the banquet, to admire it and savor it. Wang Xing hurriedly saluted. I've seen master. You two are just sparring, but do be careful not to hurt anyone. Wang Sheng and Master Gao turned to look together. Master Gao exclaimed in surprise. Master, what brings you here? Over the past few days, Wang Sheng has benefited greatly as well. Until this day, while the two were sparring halfway through, a hearty laughter suddenly came from the door. Senior sister smiled and nodded, and ever since that day, Uncle Gao would come here every few days to spar with Wang Sheng. Whenever they met, they would complement each other's skills. Seeing this scene, the young junior sister inside the room widened her eyes excitedly. She asked in disbelief, Senior brother, is he really that powerful? So after Uncle Gao finished his demonstration, Wang Xing immediately stepped forward to ask for guidance. He hoped the senior uncle could instruct him in his cultivation. However, senior uncle Gao humbly said, let's just spar. Your cultivation might not be below mine. Come, try a few moves. The master's teachings are too vast and complex. And he hasn't specialized in one path. Uncle sure follows a pure sword cultivation path. With his guidance, I will definitely be able to advance further. The star chief holds the central position. The lesser stars sweep in all directions. Uncle Gao truly deserves his reputation as a master of swordsmanship, immersed in it for 2 or 3 generations. Compared to him, my understanding is too shallow. Watch closely. Uncle Gao Yanba is about to demonstrate the 7 stars sword technique. Wang was shocked after watching. Although this sword technique shares similarities with the 7 stars sword formation, it is not the same technique. Your swordsmanship is quite profound, but it follows a different path than mine. I can't give guidance. However, Wudong has passed down a set of 7-star sword techniques since its inception, which has many differences from your 7-star sword formation. Life is probably like this, in the midst of gain and loss. Not just one temple. After watching Wang Xing demonstrate the 7-star sword formation, Master Gao stepped forward to provide feedback. Master Gao came this time also to hear about Wang Xing's main construction of the Dao. He was prepared to offer some guidance to him. This made Wang Xing sigh. Back then, he went up the mountain wanting to take Master Gao as his teacher. Unexpectedly, due to fate, he instead encountered his master and senior sister. He suddenly heard senior brother Zhou's voice. He opened the door and looked. And indeed it was senior brother Zhou. Accompanying him was Daoist Gao Shixing. Wang Xing quickly bowed to Master Gao. When the inner and outer cycles are linked, the cultivation of the fetus can actually lead to great success. How one can achieve the perfect and flawless inner microcosmic orbit is the direction Wang Xing is currently striving toward. However, just then, the next day, he continued cultivating to break through the fetal essence mirror. The divine mirror is the initial stage of sensing the heavens and earth. It allows oneself to begin merging with heaven and earth. The fetal essence mirror enables control over the connection with heaven and earth, drawing vital energy from the world around. The cultivation civilization is rising again. Unexpectedly, the disciples of Mount Longhu announce online to the whole nation that they will publicly auction off a captured celestial master. For now, everything outside is settled. Wang Xing doesn't have many concerns. A man with glasses is surfing the internet, looking for fun games, when he suddenly spots a game called The Sacred Firebearer. It prompts him to click and enter. As the energy of the world is revived, his junior sister still had unresolved issues in her heart. Hopefully, their master will return soon, and use his steady, yet gentle love to comfort her. He also wondered how the special investigation team's progress was going. Meanwhile, at a university dormitory, do not confuse the primary with the secondary. Do not lose sight of the main point. After speaking, Wang Xing turned around, carrying the dishes, preparing to leave. At the same time, he was thinking, although he had already withdrawn from the whirlpool, then, cultivate the path through the law. Your father taught me. Cultivation is the pursuit of the realm of the Tao. It is not about powerful spells. Your own Tao is the foundation. I want to quickly learn some skills, and join that special investigation team. When Wang Sheng heard that junior sister had this determination, it wasn't in vain that they came looking for him this time. It is emphasized that the practice of cultivation focuses on cultivating virtue before the mind. If there's something wrong, just tell me, in senior sister. Junior sister lowered her head and said softly, I'm now atoning for my mistakes. I don't want to make things too difficult for mom, and I don't want to affect his work either. If possible, he couldn't help but ask senior brother Wang Sheng, when will my dad come back? Wang Sheng thought for a moment. It was hard to say. The golden core that master broke through is all about the heavenly Tao. The chasm is not so easy to cross. She readily agreed to Wang Sheng's suggestion. Wudong Mountain has clear spiritual energy, plus, the warm hospitality from fellow disciples. The junior sister's mood gradually brightened. But when night fell, let's go back to the mountain. Experience real cultivation. And by the way, meet your biological father. Upon hearing this, the junior sister stopped crying. And perhaps the master's wife also wanted the junior sister to stay away from the turmoil. As the saying goes, one cannot blame the father for all faults. The master and mistress are not entirely without responsibility in this matter. Then he smiled and squatted down in front of the junior sister. He comforted her, saying, once you explain everything clearly. Shenyang gritted her teeth, and let go of Wang Sheng's hand. He turned to leave. He instructed the team member waiting at the door to give him the results of the junior sister's interrogation within 2 hours. Wang Sheng could only sigh helplessly about this. As she spoke, tears welled up in her eyes. She raised her hand, ready to strike again, but this time, Wang Sheng stopped her. Calm down, Shenyang star. Shimmy asterisk was also manipulated by others. Or are you just doing it to spite me? Have all these years of learning been for nothing? If it weren't for those two, you'd already be dead by now. You know, the trouble is just beginning. After learning the whole story, Shenyang asterisk immediately slapped the young apprentice, and angrily said, how could I have given birth to such an idiot? Are you really this stupid? Just as he was about to be caught in a fish pond, he was saved by the holy flame. He then joined the overaged society. Thus, the two sides formed a bond. Last night's scene stemmed from this. But for Wang Sheng and the others, the nun captured by Wang was named Yuchiyu. She was originally an outer disciple of the Divine Gu sect. 6 months ago, she was bribed by the Enyang sect, stealing the secret manuals inside the door. After the matter was exposed, he was instead hunted down and silenced. Later, due to the haunting at the Li family, the Special Investigation Unit started to take action against the Enyang sect. But even so, they still failed to capture the two evil criminals. They only managed to kill one of them. You're amazing. After comforting senior sister, Wang Sheng looked at the branch in his hand. He thought to himself, hopefully after this fierce battle, junior sister will understand something. Clearly, they could have been saved. Master will definitely scold me. Wang Sheng gently patted senior sister's head and comforted her. You not only defeated the enemy, but also protected junior sister. Mao Yu has already received the intel. Next, it's their mission. But when Wang Sheng turns around, sister is already in tears. It's as if she's saying she's useless. When senior sister heard that, she couldn't hold back. She charged forward, ready to give them 2 slaps. But Wang Sheng stopped her. Sister, our priority is to protect the junior sister. Forcing Wang Sheng to retreat. Then he leapt into the air. Before leaving, he didn't forget to throw a harsh line at Becca. Your swordsmanship isn't bad. Next time, I'll fight you for 300 rounds. Seeing they couldn't defeat the short man, the tall man urged him to run. If we don't leave, we'll be done for today. After hearing this, the tall man immediately swung his sword, and transformed it into 2 large hands, reaching for her. Junior sister screamed in terror. Luckily, at the crucial moment, sister quickly unleashed the yin and yang chi to form the curious grand formation. Isolate this malevolent energy outside. The true chi formed into palm strikes, hitting the shorter man. It struck him so hard that he spat blood and his blade flew away. But just at that moment, the shorter man set his sights on junior sister. He gathered his killing intent. Holding a branch, he charged forward. In a hurry, the tall man drew his sword and slashed at Wang Sheng's afterimage. Immediately, the two began to grapple with each other. With no worries left, senior sister started to fight with full force. She rushed forward and started fighting directly. She used Tai Chi. His right hand manifested a Tai Chi symbol. He blocked the short man's malevolent attack. At this moment, the tall man behind him unexpectedly tried to ambush Wang Sheng. It turned out that senior sister had arrived. Wang Sheng also breathed a sigh of relief. He took the branch handed to him by senior sister. He indicated that they were the bad guys. Upon hearing this, senior sister's gaze suddenly became sharp. A perfectly round branch suddenly flew over. It struck the hand of the tall man, which was about to swing the sword. Then a pair of hands, as white as jade, appeared in front of the tall man's chest. With a single palm strike, he directly knocked the tall man out, and could only take the hit. He was directly blasted out. At that moment, the tall man suddenly appeared in front of him. He slashed down towards his face. At this critical moment, it's hard to guard against hidden arrows. Just as Wang Sheng was dodging the tall man's attack, he suddenly came under attack again. It turned out that the short man, Ju's old six, ambushed him. Wang Sheng couldn't evade in time. The murderous aura transformed into 3 giant snakes and charged at Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng quickly picked up the woman and dodged. At the same time, he also realized that this knife and the murderous aura complemented each other. Unable to respond. But when the gun fires, I dodge. It came into his hands. He saw him hold the sword horizontally in front of him. He coldly said, "Let's make it quick." After saying that, he leaped into the air, with a swing of the sword. But this woman is an important clue to the aging society. I can't let her die here. At that moment, Gao Dinan suddenly said he was done playing. Then he casually reached out. The sword that was just stuck in the ground automatically unsheathed. Wang picked the woman up from the ground, and looked at the 2 masked figures in front of him. I sighed inwardly. To have a Caesarean mirror in the dormant phase. The masters of yin and yang teachings are indeed extraordinary. He started charging his ultimate move. At that moment, Wang took the chance to turn and dash toward the short man. The short man didn't dare to face it head-on. He quickly turned around to block, but was knocked back several meters. Wang Sheng suddenly caught a glimpse out of the corner of his eye that another short man was about to take the woman away. Wang Sheng thought, this is bad. He immediately launched a fierce attack on the tall man, clearly determined to finish the fight in one decisive move. The tall man fell for it as expected. After a few exchanges, Wang Sheng also realized, if the opponent wasn't unarmed, he might really be hard to fend off right now. However, while the two were grappling, he was surprised that the other party could keep up with his 7-star steps. It seems the opponent is not just all talk, they do have some real skills. He then focused his sword fingers. He unleashed several sword energies in retaliation, striking at Wang Sheng's afterimage. The attack missed. The tall man immediately switched directions. Once again, he struck towards Wang Sheng's true form. Wang Sheng didn't expect it. Instantly dispersed the ominous aura surrounding them. This also piqued the tall man's interest. He plunged his sword into the ground, then charged straight forward. He swung a hand chop. They charged straight towards Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng was not willing to back down either. He condensed a sword aura to break through. He coldly stated again, if I say it's not possible, then it's not possible. As he spoke, sword energy surged around Wang Sheng. He immediately realized they were from the Yin-Yang cult. He decisively stepped in front of the woman. You can't do that. The shorter man among the two scratched his head and said, do you know that you're provoking the last person you should? As he finished speaking, the malevolent energy surrounding the two began to solidify. This guy here. This woman stole something that should have been ours. Can you hand her over to us? We'll definitely reward you well. Wang Sheng noticed the tattoos on their necks. He suddenly sensed a surge of killing intent. It was a killing intent that clashed with the Taoist techniques. Wang Sheng turned his head to look, and saw 2 masked men, one tall and one short, appearing in the distance. He's walking slowly toward him, and lifted her up effortlessly. He crippled all of his meridians, and cultivation, then casually tossed him to the ground. I'll leave the rest to you, mistress. But just at that moment, Wang Sheng realized this woman was no ordinary person. He decided he had to capture her, and extract information. He instantly appeared behind her, grabbing her by the neck. But a wisp of poisonous smoke rose from his hand. It turned out the silver needles were poisoned. Then, he saw the opponent trembling as he took out a pill and swallowed it. Seeing the other party take out multiple elixirs, and even poison needles capable of temporarily disabling someone at the half-step fetus severing stage. Not long after, Wang Sheng unleashed a sword aura, and knocked him to the ground. But unexpectedly, as soon as the opponent got up, he immediately threw several poison needles at him. Wang Sheng waved his hand and easily deflected them. Also notified the planning office. Ho Yu received the news, and immediately ordered all teams to prepare for battle. Block all exits on campus. We must not let them escape. There are even evil cults masquerading as student organizations recruiting in universities. After Wang Sheng discovered and destroyed one of their hideouts, the junior sister was suddenly attacked. Seeing that the mastermind finally appeared, while chasing Wang Sheng told senior sister to protect junior sister. He went after them, thinking to himself, have these sneaky creatures finally lost their patience? As the world's spiritual energy revives, the entire population enters the era of cultivation. With a swish, it fired toward them. Fortunately, the senior sister reacted quickly. With a casual wave, she easily knocked it down. Seeing his plan fail, and decisively fled, she covered her face and broke down crying. Seeing the situation, the senior sister nearby immediately panicked. He didn't know how to comfort her. At that moment, not far away in the bushes, a crossbow was aimed directly at them. He directly handed him the photo his master had kept close. The photo was of him and his mother. Then Wang Sheng showed his junior sister a previous video call with the master's wife. Upon learning the truth, the junior sister found it hard to accept. That night, the two invited the junior sister out. They explained the general situation and their identities to her. But the junior sister simply didn't believe that my father had passed away 20 years ago. Where did this disciple come from? Wang Sheng didn't explain much. It seemed to imply that the junior brother was the bad guy. He won't let me fight. Wang Sheng smiled. He picked up a potato chip and put it in the senior sister's mouth. It's time for the senior sister to find the junior sister. I still need to quickly pull my junior sister out of this mess. Otherwise, it might lead to continuous trouble. Just as Wang Sheng was deep in thought, a finger suddenly poked his face. Wang Sheng turned his head and saw his senior sister pouting at him. At the same time, he was a bit puzzled. A group like the Sacred Flame Overaged Society is practically a crime syndicate with a cultivation background. What exactly is their goal? Do they just want to do something righteous to amass wealth? But no matter what, now they've already made a name for themselves in the underworld. As for the junior sister, due to her wealthy family background, she's like a small mascot or treasure within the group. Wang Sheng asked Mao Yu to send him their profiles. He'll keep an eye on their movements. When he returned to school, Mao Yu called again. He said those few rogue cultivators had confessed. The founder of the Supernatural Society calls himself the Flame Bearer. They hired over a dozen rogue cultivators to act as guardians. But unfortunately, she only hit Wang Sheng's afterimage. The next second, Wang Sheng appeared behind him. He knocked him out with a single karate chop. After dealing with the four so-called supernatural elders, Wang Sheng handed the scene over to Mao Yu. With one strike, he split the stone table in two. It was divided in half. He then unleashed several more sword strikes, instantly taking down the three old men. At that moment, the old woman hiding behind them suddenly threw a fire trap at Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng suddenly walked in and greeted them. "Good morning, elders past your prime." With just a word, he revealed their true identities. The elders exchanged glances. They immediately joined forces to throw the tea table at Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng remained completely unfazed. The next morning, Wang Sheng gave Huang Mao a brutal beating, and arrived at a small courtyard. In the courtyard, four elderly men and women were chatting and having tea. But just then, seeing this, the blonde guy realized even second uncle with the divine mirror was killed instantly, so he immediately turned to run. Just then, a cold gleam flashed and Wang Sheng's arrow was pressed against the blonde guy's neck, forcing him to reveal the location of their hideout. I didn't expect the senior club to even sneak around with its unspoken rules. Wang Sheng arrived with his sword drawn, descended from the sky. Xuanfa swung his sword vertically, and instantly killed the old man with sword energy. Huang Mao quickly explained, "Second uncle, no. Elder Gu, this is my new girlfriend. I wanted to bring her over to meet you." But before he could finish, another voice came from above, looking hesitant. Suddenly, a furious shout came from the front, "Shut up, you disgrace to the sect. Shameful." An old man walked out of the alley, his face full of anger. Soon, the blonde guy led the girl into a deserted alley. He reached out to grope the girl and said, "If you go along with what I want, you'll not only fly, but I can also blow up extra techniques and ammunition for you." The girl blushed. He saw that the blonde guy from earlier was now grinning mischievously and talking to a girl. Wang Sheng listened to what he was saying. He was speechless for a moment. Has cultivating now even turned into playing with unspoken rules? He then asked senior sister to keep watching while he followed them. Let them investigate. At that moment, the senior sister suddenly reminded Wang Sheng to look over there. Wang Sheng raised his head and asked the senior sister if there was a situation. Senior sister shook her head. Wang Sheng looked in the direction she pointed, puzzled. Wang Sheng couldn't help but complain whether they were preaching or doing a pyramid scheme. The leader indeed has some cultivation, but if it's just cultivation, these people haven't broken any rules. After thinking for a moment, Wang Sheng decided to send the photos to Moi first. Begin your cultivation. At this moment, Wang Sheng and senior sister are standing on a nearby tree. Their cultivation has deepened. The conversation just now, they heard it all clearly. The guy was still brainwashing them, telling them not to think of the members as useless. Everything requires investment. Right now, you're investing in yourselves. Only by doing so, can you truly reach the pinnacle. Wang Sheng and the senior began to investigate. That night, in a small grove outside the school, a dozen students formed a circle, around a guy with yellow hair. The world's vital energy is reviving. The era of universal cultivation has begun, but who would have thought that even the unspoken rules have spread to the cultivation world? After learning about the Supernatural Inspiration Club from the senior, but their backs seemed unusually lonely. So that's the senior sister he keeps mentioning in his texts. No wonder he's so happy up in the mountains. If I hadn't met your senior sister today, I would have really thought you were going to become a Taoist priest. He told the senior that this was enough. I'll have someone secretly protect you. From now on, just pretend you never saw me or the senior. The senior nodded. She watched as Wang Sheng and the senior left. She immediately sent it to Wang Sheng. It was a recruitment poster from a club called the Supernatural Inspiration Society. Wang Sheng looked at the promotional slogan on it. I think this is what they were looking for. He immediately stood up from the ground. So Wang Sheng asked again, has anyone invited you to join any strange clubs lately? Like martial arts, magic, longevity, or even anything related to immortality? When asked this, the senior suddenly thought of a poster she had seen before. It seemed to be related to what Wang Sheng had mentioned. He mentioned that he was here to investigate some unstable elements hidden in the school. He hoped the senior sister could provide some clues. When the senior sister heard about unstable elements, she thought for a moment and felt that there shouldn't be such people in the school. How am I supposed to interact with her? Wang was drenched in cold sweat. I advise you to calm down a bit. Then Wang Sheng took the senior and junior sister to the small forest. He briefly explained the situation to the senior sister. He wanted them to get to know each other. However, the senior looked at her with a gloomy expression, as if to say, weren't you supposed to find out about the junior? Who is this woman? Does the senior have a higher status, or does the mentor? Seeing this, the senior couldn't help but cover her mouth and chuckle. Could it be that you intentionally threw your phone behind her? Wang Sheng smiled awkwardly. He quickly changed the subject. He introduced his girlfriend to his senior, and enthusiastically introduced this classmate. Can I add you on WeChat? As a thank you, I'll treat you to dinner later. But she was gently refused by the junior sister. At that moment, someone beside him suddenly asked, classmate, you dropped your phone. Wang Sheng turned around to see that it was the junior sister who had picked up the phone he had just dropped and returned it to him. He quickly took the phone and said thank you. Her face slightly reddened, but actually, Wang Sheng wasn't being inappropriate. He was sensing the spiritual energy around her. After discovering that the senior had no aura, he was certain that she had no connection with the junior sister's matter, although there was a bit of risk. Seeing him healthy now, Wang Sheng feels it was worth it. At that moment, Wang Sheng suddenly placed his hand on the senior's shoulder, and greeted her with a smile. He once saved my life. It turns out that in a previous life, the senior sister became disabled due to a car accident, and Wang Sheng appeared at the scene early after his rebirth, to help her through the crisis. I just saw that guy seems to have a girlfriend. I can't stand this, let's deal with him. Just as the boys around were about to rush over and beat Wang Sheng up, the senior sister quickly explained, don't make a scene. This is my junior from high school. The senior sister's face instantly darkened. At the same time, the boys around were also shocked and looked at Wang Sheng. Then they turned to anger. Who is this person? Senior Shen actually has time to develop feelings. He couldn't help but be stunned for a moment. Unexpectedly, the next second, the senior rushed into his arms. With an excited face, she said, it's really you. How come you are here? Seeing this scene, he was just about to strike up a conversation. But suddenly he heard someone behind him calling his name. Startled, his phone fell to the ground. Wang Sheng turned around. It was actually his former senior, Shen Qianlin. It seemed that things were not so simple. So he told his senior apprentice sister that the plan had changed. He would go and try to make contact with the junior apprentice sister first. Upon hearing this, his senior apprentice sister breathed a sigh of relief. Wang Sheng then turned and slowly approached the junior apprentice sister. Wang Sheng advised her not to feel pressured. After all, she's the master's daughter. Just don't treat her as an outsider. Suddenly, Wang Sheng noticed that his junior apprentice sister had already shown signs of true energy. This true energy was quite similar to the one he had cultivated in his past life with inferior techniques. The master's wife had no choice but to contact the master, hoping he could help save the junior sister. Later, Wang Sheng and the senior sister went to the student cafeteria. They initially planned for the senior sister to approach and start a conversation, but this proved difficult for the shy and quiet senior sister. A monk infiltrated the university to conduct proselytizing. She was one of those deceived. This caused conflict with her mentor's wife. They lost contact. Perhaps that's why. Meanwhile, Wang Sheng was looking at junior sister's photo. Junior sister's name is Qi Wen. She's in her sophomore year, majoring in economics and trade. According to the information provided by Strategy, Wang Sheng advised his senior sister not to alarm the snake temporarily. If possible, create an opportunity to get to know junior sister a bit. The senior sister quickly sent a meme over. It looks like she has fully immersed herself in the role. She seems to be having a great time. Not long after settling in, the senior sister sent a message. He found residual traces of the principal in the junior sister's room. It should be due to the captive's questioning. What should we do next? Yet at this time, they're aggressively promoting it. It's hard to say there aren't ulterior motives. What Wang Sheng and the others need to do is to disguise themselves as a couple of exchange students and enter the campus. They need to investigate each other's whereabouts and rescue the junior sister. A monk has infiltrated the university campus. He's spreading cultivation techniques like a pyramid scheme. The junior sister is one of the many students being recruited. Right now, the world's energy is just starting to revive. Cultivation is still a secret to the outside world. Next, it would be up to Wang Sheng and the senior sister. As soon as the young man entered the university, he became the public enemy of all the boys. This was because he not only had a beautiful senior sister as his legitimate girlfriend, and the beautiful senior sister is throwing herself at him, according to the intelligence from the strategists. After realizing it, he guessed the relationship between their group leader and Master Qin Yanzi. Mao Yu was incredibly excited. He didn't expect such a huge scoop. Not long after, the group finally arrived at the task location. It was also the university where the junior sister studied. Wang Xing smiled and said it was fine. This matter is also personal for us. After all, she is not just your leader's daughter, but also our junior sister. Wen Yan, Mou, and Denyo were all taken aback. It is specifically responsible for monitoring the cultivation world. It mediates the conflicts between the cultivation world and the secular realm. But because this incident involves the chieftain's beloved daughter, they are not comfortable saying much. I hope Wang Xing won't mind. First, he turned the law upside down. Now, the path of cultivation is well known in his heart. Naturally, the secular world also needs a privileged organization to maintain order. The Special Investigation Unit is led by the Master's wife. It is one of the privileged departments established by the Great Hua Kingdom for the cultivation world. These words somewhat discouraged Mao Yu. But on the way, Wang Xing finally managed to learn from Mao Yu the true nature of the Special Investigation Unit. It turns out that the ancient city hero caused chaos with martial arts. Seeing that Mu Yu's enthusiasm was a bit over the top, Wang Xing hurriedly explained, "Senior sister, he's an assistant to the master's wife, not a bad person." Senior sister snorted while eating. In the car, Mu Yu gazed at Mu Wanxian in silence, her eyes shining. The fairy is really beautiful. Her figure is amazing. Her skin is so fair. She's flawless from every angle. After all, what they were facing now was the Yin-Yang cult. A cult that almost overthrew the entire world in their past lives. Wang had to be cautious. The next day, Wang Sheng successfully picked up senior sister, and officially set out to rescue junior sister. Wang stood still, with a solemn expression. After all, it involved secrets from a past life. He couldn't fully speak about it. He just hoped they could prevent it this time. I'm afraid they need to quickly get in touch with the major mountain gates. After hearing this, Mu Yu also realized the seriousness of the situation. He hurriedly asked Wang Sheng to wait a moment. He will go notify his colleagues right away. It's highly likely the emblem of the organization behind him. So, he asked Mou to investigate from this angle, and from the Yin-Yang Gu Taiji pattern, and the wooden cauldron artifact that he destroyed earlier. These three things are enough to prove that a certain evil cultivation organization has already taken shape. Ancient records state that it can enhance the spiritual awareness of the person infected. It can also cause their death from miles away. And there's this symbol. It looks like a Taiji diagram, but it's not. And his death was extremely gruesome. Wang Sheng looked at the photo of the security guard's death, and the mark on his arm resembling a Taiji symbol. He concluded that the guard probably died from yin-yang forces. The bloodthirsty Gu worm is sensitive to the interaction of yin and yang, because that mining area belonged to the Li family, so he targeted Li Sisun for his revenge. At that moment, Mo Yu suddenly received news from a colleague. Just now, the security guard who intended to kill someone died, but even if it's a dragon's lair or a tiger's den, I'll still rescue junior sister. Then, the group prepared to go to Wudong Mountain to fetch senior sister. Wang Xing also learned from the strategist that the father and elder brother of that evil cultivator's bodyguard died in a mining accident years ago. At the same time, Wang Sheng was also thinking, since the master's wife and daughter are in trouble, his senior sister wouldn't stand by idly either. But it's surprising that mistress contacted us first. It seems there's really some trouble. I briefly explained the situation to my senior sister. Then, I walked out of the room. I asked when Mao Yu planned to leave. My senior sister will also join this mission. Let's head back to Wudong to pick her up first. Wang Xing felt speechless. Master, are you wishing for Gu Xing's life? The timing for promotion is just too coincidental. Thinking of this, he sighed. So he needed to go into seclusion for a while. That's why he went to Zhongnan Mountain, and they said they would show off when they got back. Take them flying. Seeing the contents of the letter, didn't even say a word. I took a photo of the letter and sent it to you. See for yourself. When Wang Sheng looked at the letter, he realized the master was about to ascend to Jindan. Please don't worry for now. As he spoke, Wang Sheng sent a message to his senior sister. He asked where the master had gone. His senior sister quickly replied with an emoji. It says the master left a letter and took off. A familiar tone came from the other end. Sorry, the number you dialed is temporarily unavailable. Wang Sheng was stunned for a moment. He quickly explained to his master's wife that it might be due to poor signal at the master's location. I'll contact my senior sister. He instantly took out his phone and called the master. Then he put it on speaker. Feeling smug, he thought as long as they could talk directly, the master would surely have a way to win back the mistress's heart. But before long, master, tell him, if he still cares about his daughter, he should come see me as soon as possible. Hearing this, Wang Sheng immediately thought, That junior sister might have run into some trouble. Wang Xing noticed that the other party didn't speak. With a hint of hesitation, he called out, "Auntie." The woman on the other side of the video sighed softly, "You can call me Auntie. However, there's one thing I want to ask you for help with. Could you pass a message to your..." She then disappeared for over a decade without any news. Until a few years ago, she sent 2 photos through someone. Only then did Qin Yanzi realize he had a child, about the same age as Wang Sheng and the others. And the woman in front of him is the very master's wife from the photos. It turns out that years ago, Qin Yanzi once fell in love with a woman, but was opposed by his own master. At that time, he originally wanted to plead earnestly with his master. But that woman had a strong-willed temperament. She left abruptly without a word. "I'm a very open-minded master. As long as you are loyal to your wife, there's nothing to worry about." Wang Xing wondered why the master suddenly brought this up. Only then, slightly tipsy, did the master reveal an old story. Looking at the woman on the other side of the video, Wang Xing recalled his first double ninth festival on the mountain. At that time, his master pulled him to drink. His drunken master hazily told him, "If you want to marry a wife in the future, just marry one. If you want to have children, just have children." He saw the person on the other side. He was so shocked that he opened his mouth wide and shouted for his master's wife. "Did you know that those Taoists who are already married can actually get married and have children too? For example, the Taoists from Wudong Mountain can. I'll wait outside first. Just call me when you finish the call." Sure enough, it wasn't long before Mr. Wang received the video call, but when he clicked to answer, she immediately took out her phone and snapped a few pictures with him. After a reminder from Wang Sheng, she finally remembered there was serious business to discuss. Clearing his throat twice indicates that our team leader wants to talk to you. Please wait a moment, someone will send you a video call. The two claim to be special investigation agents, specifically here to handle the malicious spirit attack incident. The woman's name is Mu Yu. The man's name is Dinyo. And Mu Yu is actually a fan of Wang Sheng. With Wang Sheng's permission, this trip has not been in vain. But just then, a sudden knock came from outside. Wang Sheng opened the door and saw 2 people he didn't recognize. After adjusting his breathing for a bit, his condition gradually recovered. After this great battle, he also gained unexpected rewards. Now, he stands at the door of the fetal mirror. But shortly after eliminating the vengeful spirit, Wang Sheng also fainted due to excessive depletion of his true energy. He temporarily lost strength and passed out. Although he wasn't unconscious for long, he still felt a bit sluggish upon waking up. After finishing the sword technique, 7 sword energies from the ghost's body instantly connected together. Then they suddenly exploded, emitting a dazzling white light. The vengeful spirit also gradually dissipated in the white light, but he was also thrown several meters back. But at least I created an opportunity for my junior brother. Wang Xing suddenly leaped up. He gathered all his true energy onto the sword. He used the 7-star sword technique to strike at the ghost's various acupoints. In a moment of desperation, Zhou Yinglong acted decisively, summoning the avatar of the true martial emperor, blocking the ghost strike, and blasting it away. Seeing that the rooster blood was indeed effective, everyone was very happy, but at this time, the fierce ghost had not yet been completely defeated. Instead, the injury completely unleashed its ferocity, and it charged towards them. Fortunately, at that moment, senior brother Zhou threw out a large amount of rooster blood. It all landed on the fierce ghost. Then we saw the thick scales on the fierce ghost gradually melt away, turning into wisps of smoke. Ordered someone to find it. But before long, Wang Sheng ran out of prisoners. As the vengeful spirit attacked again, he was at a loss for what to do. They'll only provoke its aggression. To break the curse of this haunted house, you need something full of yang energy. Can you get some rooster blood? Preferably from a black rooster. Hearing this, Captain Pang immediately. Everyone else, hold your positions. Assist the Taoist priest inside in shooting the vengeful ghost. After hearing this, Zhou Yinglong quickly spoke up to stop them. Wait, ordinary bullets won't harm the vengeful ghost. His subordinate asked what they should do now. This matter has gone beyond their handling capability. The chubby captain feigned calmness and said, "What are you panicking about? First, contact headquarters. Report the situation here." She redirected the force to throw the giant rock in another direction. He turned around and smiled, saying, "Officers, the vengeful spirit is agitated. Please don't provoke or stimulate him." Upon hearing this, the chubby captain was completely stunned. The vengeful spirit immediately raised a stone and threw it in their direction. Just as the stone was about to hit them, Zhou Yingrong outside the door quickly broke free from her handcuffs. She dodged and moved in front of the chubby captain, using a Tai Chi push technique. Let them in to take a look, he thought. But after the police entered the door, they were so frightened by the scene in front of them that they collapsed to the ground. Everyone shouted in fear, "There really is a ghost." Upon seeing a living person, it's because ever since the revival of vitality, the Dahua government ordered police officers to carry firearms on duty. In special circumstances, they are allowed to shoot. Zhou Yinglong, seeing that he couldn't stop them, could only sigh helplessly. But who would have thought that the fat captain not only ignored the warning, he even drew the gun from his waist. He pressed the muzzle directly against Zhou's forehead. Then, citing obstruction of official duties, he had Zhou temporarily detained. The reason why the fat captain dared to act this way. Everyone, please stay calm. However, Captain Pang only thought he was a swindler. He was tricking the old man into having a few people guard the side door. At that moment, they were about to force their way in. Zhou Yinglong quickly stepped forward to block them. Where did these ghosts come from? At this moment, there was a whoosh. Zhou Yinglong suddenly appeared beside him. With a friendly smile, he explained, "Police officer, my junior can disperse the evil spirits in just 20 minutes. Meanwhile, Li Shishan, standing at the door, is explaining to Captain Pang that there really are ghosts. They're not lying. But Captain Pang doesn't believe them at all. Honestly, what era is this?" And urgently shouted for Brother Zhou, "Stop them. Don't let them get involved. Give me another 15 minutes. This thing won't hold much longer." A large group of armed police officers suddenly burst in. They said they had received a report that someone was threatening Mr. Li, and came to investigate. Wang Sheng sensed their presence through his spiritual powers. Since that's the case, as long as we keep this up, we can definitely destroy the vengeful ghost. But just as Wang Sheng was grappling with the vengeful ghost, Brother Zhou ran into some trouble. Wang Sheng saw this, and nodded slightly to himself. The captive is indeed useful. The evil cultivator in the attic must have lost consciousness by now. Otherwise, the vengeful ghost wouldn't ignore laymanly. He launched an attack of swords and talismans at the fierce ghost in the center of the formation. The moment the talisman struck the ghost, they ignited into blazing flames. Until finally, the entire body of the fierce ghost was engulfed in golden flames. It let out a cry of agony. Blessings to exterminate the ghost. Wang Sheng threw the blessing bag in his hand. Countless talismans flew out. Wang Sheng pierced through the talismans with his sword's true essence energy. Stacking buffs. Use a spell Toit's soul power. Use the sword array to trap its form. At this moment, senior brother Zhou finally brought the blessings. Wang Sheng caught it with one hand, preparing to expel the ghost in the mansion. He would wear it down. Then he used the 7 stars footwork, creating multiple afterimages, and activated the 7 stars sword formation. Surround the fierce ghost in the middle. Li Shishan also turned and ordered his men to quickly post them elsewhere. Bring all the captives here. At this moment, Wang Sheng, facing this fierce and dangerous ghost, also came up with a countermeasure, since he couldn't kill it, dodging the ghost's attacks, while shouting, "Senior brother, hurry and give me Uncle Master's talisman." Upon hearing this, Zhou Yinglong hurriedly searched for the talisman. It has little effect on this kind of spirit. It's better to use captives like Shi Qianzhang and Lu Yunji did. Thinking of this, Wang Sheng immediately came up with an idea. He performed the 7-star steps. He then threw Li Shishan to Brother Zhou. He asked him to protect Li Shishan. Take the Li family far away from here. Immediately, he struck the evil spirit with a sword again. However, the Wenyuan sword is not particularly effective against ghosts. Senior brother Zhou finally arrived with security personnel. He shouted into the room, "Fei Yu, are you okay?" Wang Sheng heard the voice, and decisively jumped out of the window. Spikes grew all over it, surrounded by a pile of skulls. Seeing this, Wang Sheng couldn't help but wonder how many souls that evil cultivator used to refine this fierce ghost. Meanwhile, but unexpectedly, the security guard, who was already at the end of his rope, actually offered his own soul as a sacrifice. He merged with the vengeful spirit. Suddenly, the spirit's body enlarged several times. He struck out with 3 sword strikes. The security guard couldn't dodge in time. He was directly sent flying, accompanied by the security guard falling to the ground. The vengeful spirit gradually dissipated. The slash split the vengeful spirit in half. There was a loud bang. The small cap in the security guard's hand exploded. Wang Sheng saw this. He pressed the attack, while stepping in a 7-star pattern to dodge the spirit's attack. He was also looking for an opportunity to counterattack. Suddenly, Wang Sheng leaped into the air, gathering all his true energy into his sword, and slashed down toward the spirit. "I'll hold off this person and ghost first." And that security guard, seeing Wang Sheng once again protecting Li Shishan, decided not to stay any longer. He immediately controlled the vengeful spirit to attack Wang Sheng again. Wang Sheng wasn't willing to back down. Drive them back. At the same time, I was also calculating in my mind that I sensed an intention just now, so I rushed over. Brother Zhou should have also sensed it and is on his way. Since that's the case, before brother arrives, what kind of grudge is between them? But no matter what, saving him comes first. Wang Sheng instantly appeared beside Li Shishan, and stabbed the ghost in the stomach with his sword. The next second, the vengeful ghost broke through the window, and rushed straight toward Li Shishan. Wang Sheng saw this, and couldn't help but think that this person would rather hold me back, just to let the vengeful ghost take Li Shishan's life. The guard decisively took action, and started grappling with Wang Sheng. But after a few moves, the guard suddenly stopped, and began chanting an incantation. "Mind your own business." Wang Sheng pointed his sword at him, driving evil spirits to harm people. Threatening others with power, you shall be executed. Seeing that harsh words were useless. As long as they touched the old man's face, even the gods might not be able to save him. This evil cultivator is truly vicious. Meanwhile, the guard was holding a small cauldron. He angrily said to the Wudong disciple. He controlled the poison needles. And then with a swing of his sword, he knocked all the poison needles down. Looking at the fallen needles, Wang Sheng discovered that these needles actually contained sinister true energy. But the security guard had no intention of backing down. He leaped back, and threw several poison needles at Li Shushan. At this critical moment, Wang Sheng activated his true source. He directly jumped to the second floor. At this moment, Li Shushan was groggily waking up. The security guard was holding a small ding and was about to kill him. Fortunately, at a critical moment, Wang Sheng intervened just in time to save him. The strike felt as if it had hit a stone. It didn't harm the evil spirit in the slightest. Suddenly, a sound came from inside Li Shushan's house. Wang Sheng immediately realized something was wrong. He swiftly stepped on the evil spirit's back. It raised its massive fist and smashed down hard at Wang Sheng. But what it hit was just an afterimage. In the next moment, Wang Sheng flashed in front of the evil spirit. He decisively drew his sword and slashed at the evil spirit's neck. There was a loud clang. That the security guard suddenly came up with a clever idea, and crashed through the big door. He dodged this strike, but the ghost that had originally floated above the security guard had now appeared behind Wang Sheng. It can't defend against traitors from within. Just as the security guard was about to open the door, a cold gleam suddenly flashed. Wang Sheng thrust his sword at the guard, but what he didn't expect was, they almost wet themselves. Wang Sheng went down the mountain for the first time to exorcise evil spirits. He slayed 70 or 80 wandering souls, but no matter how powerful a Taoist technique is, it can only guard against vengeful spirits. The energy of the heavens and earth is reviving. Skeptical armed police encounter a true Taoist who can cultivate. They mistake him for a con artist. They immediately handcuff him. In the end, they run into a real ghost. The security guard was also startled. It was a Wudong trap after all. Li Shushan had indeed made preparations for defense. But can a captive prevent a ghost? But can it prevent a living person like me? Then, the man and the ghost headed towards the attic where Li Shushan was. Just as the vengeful ghost extended its sharp claws, ready to break down the door, a dazzling golden light suddenly emanated from the door. The ghost was injured by the golden light, and let out a piercing scream, bit his own finger, and dripped blood onto the small cauldron. In the next second, a dark green mist floated out from the cauldron, transforming into a giant, terrifying ghost. It hovered over the security guard's head. Suddenly, Wang Sheng sensed with his spiritual awareness that someone was walking towards Li Shushan's resting loft. At this moment, outside Li Shushan's attic, a security guard was sneaking around, looking around with a flashlight. Then he took a small cauldron out of his pocket. Let alone that my cultivation is not as good as his right now. Even if we were in the same realm, I'm afraid I still wouldn't be able to do it. In that case, I'll protect Fei Yu fully. Having said that, Wang Sheng sat cross-legged. He began to release his spiritual thoughts, covering the entire Li family estate. Seeing this, Brother Zhou couldn't help but sigh. I didn't expect Fei Yu's spiritual sensing ability to cover the entire residence. At this moment, Brother Zhou asked Wang Sheng if we should wait here. Is it useful? Wang Sheng said that if there's an insider, it would be better not to let the night drag on with too many dreams. They should act today. Now, it just depends on who among us is more patient. There would be no reason not to leave traces behind. So the mastermind behind the ghost release is very likely an insider. That said, the person who released the ghost is indeed malicious. This kind of twisted method of using ghosts to harm people and bring misfortune is simply intolerable. Plus, there is a complete surveillance system with no blind spots. Even so, the ghosts they expelled today added up to 70 or 80. It's obviously not something that can be done in just a day or two. If it weren't for someone stirring up trouble, Wang Sheng said it might have to wait until midnight. Because midnight is when the yang energy is at its weakest. It's also when the evil spirits are the most confident. They have powerful connections. There are both nannies and security guards. But when night fell, Wang Sheng and senior brother Zhou returned to the Li estate. It turned out they pretended to leave to make the other party lower their guard, planning to return at night to lie in wait. Senior brother Zhou asked Wang Sheng how long they would need to wait. The feng shui of the estate and his uncle's ordination seemed to have occurred over a decade ago. Could there be some connection between these events? The next day, after dealing with the spirit, Uncle Li prepared to return to the mountain to report back. He told my elder brother to inform him if anything came up, but Li Shushan still insists that there's absolutely nothing wrong. At this moment, Wang Sheng is inside the room, channeling his inner energy. He is eavesdropping on their conversation, and from what they are saying, he learns that the Li family might have done something bad in the past. During their conversation, they ask my brother if he has offended anyone in recent years. Li Shushan says he has just been staying at home. He hasn't offended anyone. Uncle Lee then tells him to think carefully. Now it seems someone is trying to harm his entire family. And said, if we suddenly expose it, I'm afraid it will provoke them into a corner. Why don't we do it this way? After about half an hour like that, Uncle Lee and my elder brother are wandering around the estate, and looked at Wang Sheng. He asked Fei Yu, in your opinion, what should we do? Wang Sheng thought for a moment. Naturally, he also knew some of the darker sides of the cultivation world. It was possible that the gene cultivator coveted the Li family's wealth, drawing the attention of some demonic cultivators. Or perhaps Li Shirshan had offended someone. This was caused by the retaliation of the evil cultivators. At this moment, the frustrated Master Li finally lifted his head. Uncle Li frowned after hearing this. There were other cultivators. This could be troublesome. As for Wang Sheng, being a reincarnator, he benefited from the knowledge of his previous life. Now, his insight was even broader than Uncle Li's. To help them regain their spirits. Soon, evening arrived. Wang Sheng shared with Uncle Li what they encountered today, and put forward his own speculation. He suspected that it was very likely that other cultivators were up to something. Are those two little guys reliable or not? Fortunately, at that moment, Wang Sheng and brother Zhou finally returned. Uncle Li let out a long sigh of relief. He turned to let the elder brother prepare a room for them, still holding up his sword for the ritual. After all, everyone around him was watching. He couldn't just stop whenever he wanted. He was wondering to himself, isn't this just an exorcism? Why is it taking so long for them to come back? No matter what, this is still considered Shirshu's jurisdiction. If someone is really stirring up trouble behind the scenes, they won't just sit back and do nothing. Meanwhile, Uncle Li was suffering in silence. But just as he was about to say it, Wang signaled for his promotion. Be careful, walls have ears. Don't mention this for now. Go meet up with Shirshu. Wang Sheng's situation was similar. This made brother Zhou feel very puzzled. Could it be that the feng shui setup here backfired? Speaking of which, brother Zhou seemed to have thought of something. In an instant, the ghosts in the room were cleared away. A moment later, Wang Sheng came outside to meet brother Zhou. He greeted brother Zhou. He made a round, and encountered over 20 ghosts. 2 ghosts appeared in front of Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng's expression was calm. He formed a hand seal. He recited the incantation. A dazzling light emanated. Thus, although it is the disciples who do the actual work, the praise and achievements still need to be attributed to the master. At this moment, Wang Sheng opened a bedroom door. Countless dark energies howled out from within. Then, 2 pairs of crimson eyes emerged from the darkness. Uncle Li had already discussed everything with them. The earlier actions were just for show. He and brother Zhou are the main force behind the actual ghost expulsion. This arrangement is mainly because others still understand cultivators through some movie content. Left and right guardians quickly dispersed the threat from this place. As soon as the words were spoken, Wang Sheng and Zhou Yinglong transformed into 2 beams of golden light and vanished. It turns out, before the exorcism, had he encountered some misfortune, that left him disillusioned with worldly matters. Soon, his master uncle began to hold a ceremony. The 5 directions deities bless us. The sky is clear, the earth is bright. He has been funding Wudong for the past few years, so Wudong tacitly allowed them to help exorcise the spirits. But what puzzled Wang Sheng was that his master uncle was clearly wealthy. Why would he choose to leave home and pursue a monastic life? No wonder Uncle Li had been so secretive before. It has a bit of a flavor of abusing power for personal gain. Before starting the meeting, Wang Sheng also learned that the owner of this house is named Li Shirshan. He is Uncle Li's older brother. It turns out that these were gifts from senior sister to Wang Sheng before he left. After all, it was her kind gesture. How could Wang Sheng throw them away? So I took these things and followed Uncle Li to the destination. I didn't expect that this was actually Uncle Li's home in the mundane world. Holding the golden Buddha statue in his left hand, and grabbing a door god with his right hand, with a crucifix and garlic hanging around his neck. He calls it a fusion of East and West. But in reality, he didn't want it this way. She still gets scared to death at the slightest sound. You can imagine how intense Master's methods were back then. But at times like this, it's my duty as her junior brother, to comfort her when she's panicking. Have you ever seen a Taoist exorcist like this? That he had used ghost stories for exposure therapy, to encourage the senior sister to speak. As a result, senior sister almost became withdrawn, and she developed a fear of ghosts. It still hasn't gone away. Wang Xing recalled how the master uncle asked them to help catch ghosts during the day. He remembered how the senior sister had curled up in fear behind him. He also didn't expect that the senior sister, a master of spellbinding, would actually be afraid of ghosts. Suddenly, Wang Xing remembered that his master had once told him, "Sleep now, I have to get up early tomorrow to continue my journey." Then, under Wang Xing's comfort, senior sister finally closed her eyes. She fell asleep peacefully. Looking at the sleeping senior sister, Wang Xing listened to the howling wind outside the window. Immediately understood that senior sister was scared by the wind, so he lay down again. He helped senior sister cover up with the blanket. He comforted her, saying not to be afraid. Wang Xing's face turned bright red. Startled, he quickly tried to sit up, but his senior sister stopped him. At that moment, his senior sister also looked at him with a flushed face. She then pointed to the window beside them. Wang Sheng was full of curiosity, while senior sister was so scared her face turned pale. By nightfall, Wang Sheng was sleeping as usual, but when he woke up halfway, he found that his senior sister was sleeping beside him. Uncle Li ran into their small courtyard with a worried look on his face. He shouted, "Senior brother Qin Yan, the evil spirit is harming people. Please help us, senior brother." Hearing about the ghost, their days returned to peace again. Now, what Wang Sheng needed to do was to strive to raise his level to the rhythm stage within a year. He also wanted to experience what fasting and immateriality were like. However, these peaceful days didn't last long. They hadn't even been back on the mountain for a month. "But I'll give it to you now instead. Senior sister, you're going to give me something. You must accept my gift." Senior sister happily accepted the flute. After a brief rest, "Wait for me a moment." Then he ran out of the house. In no time, he came rushing back. Blushing, he handed a flute to his senior sister. He explained that he originally wanted to give it to her as a birthday gift. Seeing that Wang Sheng didn't want it, senior sister immediately put on a pitiful expression. Tears welled up in her eyes. How could Wang Sheng resist that? He quickly said, "Senior sister, this spirit-calming jade pendant is naturally for you." I didn't expect senior sister to send a "I'm invincible" meme right away. She wanted to give him this jade pendant. But Wang Sheng still waved his hand and refused, saying, "This is a gift from the master uncle to you. How can I take it?" Senior sister must be worried that his cultivation would be affected by the sword. Then, I saw her rummaging through the box again. She took out a piece of jade with excellent quality and handed it to Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng hurriedly waved his hand, "Senior sister, I already have this sword." She took the sword and gently stroked it, but shook her head. Seeing this, Wang Sheng hurriedly reassured her, "I wouldn't intentionally use him to kill." Wang Sheng knows the sword master's killing techniques. Although it's not as mystical as Lu Yunji's golden armor or Shi Qianzhang's crescent ink jade, it's still a rare treasure. It's a reasonable reward for Mao Mountain's efforts this time. After trying it out for a while, Wang Sheng went back inside and handed the sword to his senior sister to examine. Master Li specially prepared quite a few gifts for Wang Sheng and the senior sister. The gift prepared for him clearly took a lot of thought. This ancient sword, named Wen Yuan, seems ordinary, but once you handle it, you can tell it contains sword essence. It is clearly a weapon specifically crafted for sword cultivators. Why do I feel like the master is about to break through again? Then the two returned to the room. Start checking the items sent by Master Li. Perhaps it is to thank him for the effort we put in at the exchange conference. I still need to go to the Taiha Palace for a meeting. I'll bring you dinner tonight. After saying this, Qinjianzi turned and left. At this moment, Wang Sheng suddenly realized. It's been a few days. However, from now on, you must quickly realign your focus. Continue your peaceful cultivation in the mountains. Brother Li sent some things yesterday. Among them are two rather fine items. This is a reward for both of you on this trip. And said, "Well done. Although we have taken up residence in Wudong, we are not the true successors of the Zhenwu Emperor, but we can still be considered as Wudong cultivators. This time, you didn't bring shame to the master." Immediately shrank behind Wang Sheng in fright. Wang Sheng gave an awkward smile, just about to explain the reason to the master, when he saw the master chuckle softly. Then the master patted his shoulder. He did not want to become the kind of cultivator he once despised the most. But when they returned to their residence, his master, with a serious expression, asked about this trip to Mount Mao. "Didn't I remind you all to keep a low profile?" After hearing this, senior sister. Nevertheless, Wang Sheng would not feel superior. After all, they are all cultivators. Even though he had often faced the cold shoulder of high-level experts in his past life. This life. I heard Shi Xiang Yinglong mention it before. They were impressive at the exchange conference. A few days ago, Zhou Yinglong and the others returned first. They spread the news about the exchange event throughout Wudong Mountain. Now, all the temples on the mountain already know about Wang Sheng and Shiji's cultivation level. After bidding farewell to his parents, Wang Sheng and senior sister finally returned to Wudong. I see the two of them coming back. Soon, the Wudong disciples began to discuss. Aren't those Fei and Shi Xiang and Bu and Shiji? During this time, Wang Sheng lived very comfortably. The only thing that wasn't perfect was the thousands of text messages he received every night, which made it impossible for him to sleep well. His dad even secretly called Wang Sheng aside to ask him how far he and his senior sister have progressed. Does he need help preparing the betrothal gifts? Wang Sheng smiled and reassured his dad. I'll make sure you get to hold your grandchild within my lifetime. After the exchange conference ended, Uncle Li specifically gave Wang Sheng a few days off. During these days, Wang Sheng took his senior sister home to visit his parents. If nothing unexpected happens, his parents are very supportive of this daughter-in-law. He turned his head and asked, who did you say his master was? The man had been a Taoist monk at Wudong for 3 years. Unexpectedly, when he returned home, he brought a daughter-in-law with him. His parents were overjoyed. They almost took out the betrothal gifts. His master's Dao title is Qin Yan Zi. It is said that his cultivation has already surpassed the Jia Tai mirror. As he spoke, the staff pulled up photos of Wang Sheng and Qin Yan Zi. The team leader looked stunned. The cup in his hand fell to the ground. Seeing this, the team leader picked up his cup and asked who he was. The staff immediately replied that this person was named Wang Sheng. His Dao title is Fei Yu. According to the information we intercepted, the team leader indicates. Look, they quickly brought up footage of Wang Sheng in battle. The audience on site exclaimed in shock. Who is that person? Is he a sword immortal? That sword technique must only exist on television. Staying calm and focused on cultivation is the proper way. Time soon reached the evening. A woman is watching the video from the Maoshan sect exchange conference. She asks her subordinates to quickly extract any useful information. At this moment, a staff member seems to have discovered something. Wang Sheng and senior sister impressed many sects. It makes sense that the two of them were sent by their master to make connections. But of course, he won't get arrogant because of this. After all, in today's world, one must avoid pride and impatience. From then on, they bore a grudge. Later, Lu Yunji's cultivation improved, but he repeatedly faced setbacks in seeking revenge. That's how we got to the scene at today's conference. And today at the gathering, he has a large following online. As for how the two of them became enemies, the story goes back a few years. Lu Yunji went to Longhushan for training, and was ambushed by Shi Qianzhang. That's how he achieved today's success. Lu Yunji is quite familiar with him. After all, he was one of the remarkable disciples in his previous life. He has been training and cultivating since childhood under his master. In addition to his extraordinary demeanor, during the conversation, Wang Sheng also learned about Shi Qianzhang and Lu Yunji. It turned out that Shi Qianzhang was the same age as him, and also a bit mischievous. Sent to a relative at Longhu Mountain by family for discipline, because of his exceptional talent in fortune and prosperity. Afterward, they went to a restaurant for a meal. At the conference, everyone represented their own sects. Naturally, they were a bit reserved, but once they entered the private room, it didn't take long for them to get familiar with each other. Dare to cause trouble in front of me? It looked like the two were about to fight. Wang Sheng hurriedly stepped in to mediate. You both must be hungry. Let's go down the mountain and grab something to eat. I'll treat you both tonight. Who's it for? What age are we in, anyway? Still so fierce and aggressive. Lu Yunji immediately retorted, that's still better than your vulgar words. Shi Qianzhang chuckled, a defeated opponent like you. Today, I must thank you for teaching that scoundrel a lesson twice. It truly brings me great satisfaction. I just had to catch up to thank you properly. Wang Sheng cupped his hands and said, you're too kind, brother Lu. Shi Qianzhang, however, dismissively picked his nose. All this fancy talk. Wang Sheng was at a loss for words, thinking only two words to describe him, you're ruthless. But just as the group was about to head down the mountain together, they suddenly heard Lu Yunji's voice from behind. Daoist brother, please slow down. Wait for me. Food is fine, but I can't afford those prisoners. Shi Qianzhang chuckled, no worries, no worries. At the time, I just wanted Uncle Master to get me some materials, so I inflated the amount a bit. Those talismans only cost a few $1,000. Let's look out for each other. Wang Sheng felt helpless. He had no choice but to add him as a friend. Then, Shi Qianzhang suggested he wanted to take this opportunity to have a good chat. Wang Sheng casually replied. Wang Sheng couldn't help but shiver when he heard the voice. With a stiff expression, he turned around and asked, can I help you? He then saw Shi Qianzhang excitedly holding up his phone, saying, let's add each other as friends. We agreed on this before. We will definitely have to interact in the future. After the exchange conference ended, Wang Sheng led his senior sister and fellow disciples down the mountain. But they had barely taken a few steps, when suddenly a familiar voice called out, Sheng, wait. Wait up, Sheng. After all, thinking too much is pointless. Do as much as your strength allows. If the sky falls, the tall ones will hold it up, no matter what. He could now walk the path of cultivation with integrity. What about rogue cultivators, demonic cultivators, or beasts on the path of transformation? Perhaps the path of cultivation has become easier. But how should one deal with the conflicts in this world? In the end, Wang Sheng decided not to think about it anymore. Each of the sects should have found their own path. As long as the world's spiritual energy remains, the great matter of cultivation will arise again. I'm afraid this era of peace won't last much longer. Although the sects can restrain their disciples, everyone around was instantly stunned. Seeing the difference in how his senior sister behaves in front of him versus others, Wang Sheng gave a helpless smile and said, Senior sister, this must be hard for you. But after today, and she's already at the mid-stage of the formation realm. This is the real boss, the true big shot. Just as the words faded, Wan Xian unleashed the full aura of the Tai Tai mirror again. His expression also became serious. Senior sister, you're amazing. Hearing this, Mu Wanxian breathed a sigh of relief, and a smile returned to her face. At that moment, she overheard the other disciples of the Dao sect discussing behind her. She's so young. A typical Jia Tai Jing is no match for senior sister. The written exam ended. Mu Wanxian immediately walked towards Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng gave him a thumbs up. His expression remained emotionless throughout. He didn't say a word. The other disciples in the audience were all wide-eyed in shock. Meanwhile, Wang Sheng appeared calm. He thought to himself, indeed, soon, it was time for the competition of the mirror of life and death. Other sects were hesitant to go up, afraid that losing would disgrace their sect. But Mu Wanxian was not afraid at all. She went up and crushed the competition. The exchange conference finally moved to the main event, thanks to Wang Sheng's intervention. And no one came over to make a fool of themselves again. Next, they just needed to quietly observe. Then they could smoothly get through the entire conference. A young man represented Wudang to face the top prodigy of Longhu Mountain. Confronted with an endless barrage of attacks, he blocked them all with a single sword slash. He actually made Longhu Mountain's top prodigy cry. After seeing off Shi Qianzhang. Later, let's grab a meal together. Wang Sheng was speechless. He was completely done with this joker. The world's vital energy is reviving. Immortal sects gathered at Maoshan for a magic duel exchange. But even so, Shi Qianzhang still didn't forget to shout at Wang Sheng, Brother Sheng. Your swordsmanship. I, Shi Qianzhang, am impressed. Let's add each other on WeChat. His uncle slapped him and said, get lost. I don't even use that paper. Go back and behave yourself, or I'll take back your magical tools as well. With that, he dragged Shi Qianzhang and turned to leave. Go back and get twice the amount of materials from the sect. But unexpectedly, Shi Qianzhang still had the audacity to play the victim after gaining the advantage. Pushing his luck, he said, Uncle, how about you get me a dozen sheets of the Emperor's paper too? Everyone was instantly dumbfounded after hearing this. At that moment, a big foot kicked over, interrupting Shi Qianzhang before he could continue speaking. Then a voice angrily scolded, enough. Stop embarrassing yourself here. Shi Qianzhang suddenly started complaining. Brother, couldn't you just cut me instead? Why did you have to kill my captive? These black robes are ridiculously expensive. I spent 30,000 on this set. Hearing this, Shi Qianzhang gritted his teeth, and rushed forward with a whoosh. Everyone was startled. They quickly warned Wang to be careful, but to their surprise, the next second, it was Shi Qianzhang holding the destroyed lucky bag. He approached them with a gloomy expression. Wang Sheng placed a hand on his senior sister's shoulder, indicating that he would take care of this. He then stepped forward to ask Shi Qianzhang if there was anything else. However, since she would be in seclusion in the mountains in the coming days, it shouldn't be a problem. At that moment, the senior sister suddenly narrowed her eyes, and shielded Wang Sheng behind her. He turned his head and saw, earnestly telling her that he had won. The senior sister immediately sent her a good job sticker. Wang Sheng awkwardly smiled and thanked the senior sister for cheering her on, but she was secretly thinking, it seemed like she was drawing too much attention today. Wang Sheng looked regretfully at the shattered sword in his hand. He didn't expect that even Brother Zhou's sword couldn't withstand his true wrath. Then he turned and cupped his hands towards Shi Qian, and said, thanks for letting me win. He then went off stage to find senior sister. Seeing this, the audience gasped in shock. That was sword energy leaving the body just now. Impossible. That boy is so young. But before his earth wall could rise, a gust of wind suddenly swept past him. Immediately after, the lucky pouch at his waist was cut in half. In the next second, Wang Sheng appeared behind him, sword energy surging around him. He launched a multi-element attack. It swarmed towards Wang Sheng, trying to drain his blood. Wang Sheng dodged the attacks, leaving behind several afterimages. Step by step, he walked towards Shi Qianzhang. Shi Qianzhang hurriedly summoned an earthen wall to block him. 3 gigantic beasts, transformed from the captives, charged directly at Wang Sheng. However, Wang Sheng simply released a blade of sword energy. He sliced the 3-headed beast in half. Shi Qianzhang was shocked, but he still wasn't willing to admit defeat. Let him experience what true despair feels like. At that moment, Shi Qianzhang suddenly opened his eyes. He said excitedly, I'm ready. Bring it on, he added. Then he unleashed his strongest attack on Wang Sheng, but didn't interrupt him. Still, he was a bit worried that he'd keep pestering afterward. So, he decided that since that was the case, he would let him strike with full force first. Pour another bucket of cold water on him, forming a hand seal and chanting the mantra Zhou Shuli. Use all the captives that can be used. Get ready for a big move. And Wang Sheng, to make him accept defeat wholeheartedly, just drew his sword. Wang Sheng, to avoid being bothered by this guy in the future, could only sigh helplessly, and agreed reluctantly. Shi Qianzhang was overjoyed, and immediately closed his eyes. You really are being domineering. As soon as those words were said, even the audience couldn't bear to listen anymore. Everyone shouted for Shi Qianzhang to come down quickly. Stop embarrassing yourself. Let's have another match. If I lose this quickly again, I will never mention sparring with you again, Xinggu. As long as you win against others, you can't let others win. Wang Sheng turned to Shi Qianzhang, feeling speechless. He didn't understand why the experts from Longhu Mountain didn't take care of this guy. And Xue Qianzhang was thick-skinned enough. He continued, come on. Xinggu, you'll be my brother from now on, okay? But he was stopped by Shi Qianzhang. Then Shi Qianzhang said with a smile, I'm a bit unconvinced about this Xinga. How about we have another match? Otherwise, I'll end up like Lu Yunji, bothering you. I'll come to Wudong Mountain every day to challenge you. Shi Qianzhang directly admits defeat. Big brother, don't get excited. I have absolutely no inappropriate thoughts about our senior sister. Seeing him concede, Wang Xing also sheathed his sword. He turned around, ready to leave the stage. He directly created countless afterimages to surround him. Then, seizing the opportunity, he decisively drew his sword. The speed was so fast that Shi Qianzhang couldn't react in time. Before he knew it, the sword was already pressed against his neck. The winner has been decided. Before he even landed, Wang Xing had already appeared behind him. Shi Qianzhang quickly turned around. He wanted to create distance from Wang Xing again, but this time, Wang Xing did not give him the chance. In the next moment, he appeared in front of Shi Qianzhang. Shi Qianzhang was startled. He quickly used the ape leap talisman to leap midair, preparing to distance himself from Wang Xing, planning to wear Wang Xing down with captives. It was raising its massive claw, about to strike him. Wang Xing leapt into the air, dodging the attack. Then, stepping on the 7 stars of the Big Dipper, his steps instantly dispersed the crane. A blur was left behind. He easily dodged the attack. At that moment, a huge shadow instantly enveloped him. He looked up. It turned out to be a giant crane transformed from the spirit of fortune. It's really not easy for this guy to be so punchable. Then, the match officially began. Shi Qianzhang launched 3 captive attacks first. The captives turned into 3 blazing flames, rushing straight at Wang Xing. Wang Xing dodged to the right. Can you give me your senior sister's contact info? Or how about we make a bet? If you lose, give me your senior sister's contact information. Wang Xing just calmly replied, let's talk after the fight. But inside, he was already burning with rage. It's okay even if you lose. Reputation like this doesn't matter. Then Wang officially went on stage. The two exchanged their lineages. Afterwards, Shi Qianzhang suddenly pointed to Mu Wanxian in the audience and said, hey bro, don't worry. It's okay. Upon hearing this, the senior sister's face suddenly turned red. Then she began to cheer for Wang Xing. Before going on stage, Uncle Li reminded Wang to stay safe. As if they were worthless. At that moment, the senior sister suddenly tugged at Wang Xing's shirt corner. Her face was filled with concern. Wang Xing held the senior sister's hand. He softly comforted her. I heard that Wang Xing has to borrow a sword from others when he goes on stage. The other disciples from different sects in the audience are all mocking him. How little does Wudong value this future sword immortal, that they won't even provide him with a sword. Look at the disciples from Maoshan and Longhushan throwing swords around. May I borrow your sword? He is the future sword immortal of Wudong, with a heart as clear as a sword. But normally he uses a wooden sword. Now it's time to go on stage for the competition. He doesn't even have a sword. If we retreat without a fight like this, it will only leave Wudong with a reputation for cowardice. So he decided to accept the challenge. He stood up from his seat, and said, Senior brother Long. As soon as he said that, everyone's eyes turned to Wang Xing in the crowd. But Wang Xing himself was utterly confused, remembering his master's advice to keep a low profile before he left. Yet, he glanced at his senior sister and fellow disciples, who were all looking at him expectantly. Otherwise, with his way of speaking and flamboyant personality, how could he possibly be unknown? At that moment, Shi Qianzhang, who had just finished his written exam, suddenly burst into laughter. Hey, you cheeky guy from Wudong Mountain, how about a little sparring? Wang Xing couldn't help but fall into deep thought. Logically speaking, if this poet has such potential, why had I never heard of this person in my past life? Could it be that he encountered some misfortune, and died young? At such a young age, he created over a dozen talisman techniques of his own. Now, he is the leading figure among the younger generation at Dragon Tiger Mountain. He is being personally mentored by the celestial master of Dragon Tiger Mountain. His future can be said to be limitless. After listening to Master Li's introduction, Uncle Li nodded solemnly. I heard that he went to Dragon Tiger Mountain to cultivate about 5 or 6 years ago. He had already mastered basic talisman techniques before the world's primordial energy returned. After the return of the world's primordial energy, he quickly comprehended both volumes of Dragon Tiger Mountain's talismanic scripture. This disciple of Dragon Tiger Mountain is indeed extraordinary. Suddenly, the voice of Uncle Li came from the side. Shi Qianzhang is more than extraordinary. Wang Xing was puzzled. Uncle, do you know him? Touching the blood on his face, Lu Yunji put down his sword, and with difficulty, uttered 3 words, I lost. In the end, Master Shi Qianzhang still had the upper hand in this battle. Wang Xing couldn't help but sigh. Do you have no shame? On stage, Lu Yunji had his protective barrier broken by the black dog's blood, and in a moment of carelessness, his face was scratched by a flying black prisoner. A large amount of red liquid suddenly dripped out. Then it attached itself to the golden protective shield. Seeing this, The Maoshan disciples below all shouted, "What the hell?" Even black dog blood was used, simultaneously charging at Lu Yunji. Lu Yunji saw the danger. He quickly raised a golden protective shield, trying to block it, but unexpectedly, just as the black creature was about to hit him, shouted loudly, a blue shield instantly rose around him, blocking Lu Yunji's fierce attack. Then Shi Qianzhang conjured several black captors. All the captors were unleashed. The jade immediately attached itself to his forehead. In an instant, Shi Qianzhang's aura surged dramatically. He formed a hand seal, chanting an incantation, smashing down fiercely towards Shi Qianzhang. Shi Qianzhang still had his hands in his pockets. He just casually swayed left and right a few times, and easily dodged the attacks. Then, he lightly tossed the crescent-shaped magic tool. That piece of jade was clearly also a magical artifact. However, since he had already revealed his trump card, there was no room for losing in this spar. So he decisively decided to strike first. A massive beam of golden light erupted. Coincidentally, they also gave me one of these little things earlier. As he spoke, Master Qianzhang took out a crescent-shaped jade. Then he continued laughing and said, "What do you think? Now everyone is shameless." Although Lu Yunji didn't know what use this had, at this moment, Master Qianzhang on stage suddenly laughed. A magical artifact that has been passed down for thousands of years was actually handed over to a giant. The disciples of Maoshan are really shameless. But our old folks from Longhushan are also quite shameless. Makes this trip worthwhile. Beside him, his senior sister was also watching the stage with bright eyes, eager to give it a try. She had the urge to rush up and take off this robe for her junior brother to wear. Wang Xing in the audience was also a bit surprised. He didn't expect that the Taoist robe was actually a magical artifact. Although it looks like that robe is of low rank, it requires a large amount of true essence and spiritual intent to support it. But seeing a real Taoist magical tool, the black butterflies suddenly emitted strands of golden light. Lu Yunji formed a hand seal for a spell. A dazzling golden light erupted, driving away all the black butterflies. Seeing this scene, he threw out 2 black captives. And in the next second, the 2 captives transformed into countless butterflies. In an instant, they surrounded Lu Yunji, and then completely engulfed him. But just at that moment, it blocked Shi Qianzhang's 4-element attacks. When Shi Qianzhang saw this, he remained calm and unhurried. He casually put his hands in his pockets, and took a few steps back. Lu Yunji felt insulted. He shouted, "Shut up," and immediately decided to go all out. Countless talismans instantly surrounded him, forming a golden protective shield. He snapped his fingers. Then he conjured multiple captives of different attributes out of thin air. In an instant, attacks from the 4 elements surged towards Lu Yunji. Shi Qianzhang arrogantly declared that if you can force me to use a talisman worth more than 100 yuan today, I'll admit defeat. Deal. He took out 2 talismans. They transformed into a crane and a spirit snake. They charged towards Lu Yunji. Lu Yunji swung his sword and sliced the crane and the snake in half. But Shi Qianzhang merely smiled faintly. Lightning strikes towards Shi Qianzhang. But Shi Qianzhang still has his hands in his pockets, easily dodging these attacks as if taking a leisurely stroll. Having had enough fun, he decides to show his true skills. But Lu Yunji's attack did not stop. Instead, she continued to unleash the thunder light technique. A single sword strike is unleashed. Combined with the dual buffs of the speed charm and the jump charm, it triggers countless lightning bolts. A bolt of lightning struck down. Shi Qian stood with his hands in his pockets, calmly taking a step back. He smiled and said, "Here we go again. Really no originality." Suddenly, countless talismans swirled around him. He raised his treasured sword high, and shouted, "By the upper purity order, thunder concealment." In the next second, 3 talismans flew out from the clouds, followed by a deafening roar. The younger generation that can enter the giant god realm are all promising talents. If Shi Qianzhang isn't incredibly gifted, then there must be something extraordinary about Dao Cheng on Mount Longhu. At this moment, Lu Yunji placed his hand on his sword, and gently drew it out. However, Lu Yunji has been cultivating since childhood. He has also been strongly supported by his sect. It's not surprising he has reached the mid-level of the giant god realm, but it's astonishing that Master Qianzhang has actually reached the late stage of the giant god realm. The natural energy of heaven and earth has just begun to recover. The disciples of the 3 sects, Maoshan and Longhushan, would compete to see who was superior. At this moment, Shi Qianzhang burst into loud laughter and said, "I don't submit to anyone." As he spoke, he demonstrated his skill of conjuring objects out of thin air. This scene left Wang Sheng in the audience amazed. I never expected there could be such a miraculous capture technique. Lu Yunji remained expressionless. Shi Qianzhang, however, smiled and asked what the contest would be this time. Lu Yunji drew his sword. Resolutely, he responded that it would still be the method of capturing prisoners. Both sides as prisoners. Come on. However, when he heard Shi Qianzhang call him a swordsman, Wang Sheng's face immediately darkened. He had a sudden urge to give him a slash, but he held it in. Then the two of them stepped onto the stage, and helplessly said, "How could I refuse? Wasn't your last defeat satisfying enough? But anyway, it's not like I'm afraid that Wudang swordsman will run away. It won't take long to beat you." Lu Yunji from the Maoshan sect walked over, diverting the attention of the yellow-haired youth. Lu Yunji politely asked if he could have the honor to spar once again with Daoist Shi Qianzhang from the prestigious Dragon Tiger Mountain, who is currently their captive. Shi Qianzhang smiled, sighed, scratched his head. At first, Wang Sheng suspected that this guy was after senior sister, but as the blonde young man got closer, he realized something was wrong. The person the guy was looking for was actually him. Fortunately, at this moment, signaling Wang Sheng to look over there, Wang Sheng turned his head to look. He noticed that the blonde young man from earlier was staring at them. Then the young man stood up from his chair. He was walking in their direction. Wang Sheng could only sigh helplessly. So he asked, "Senior sister, do you really want to go?" "Of course." Senior sister nodded, her eyes sparkling. Then she pointed to a corner. "A great opportunity for mutual exchange. Fellow Taoists, there's no need to be reserved. Feel free to consult each other." Mu Wanxian immediately got excited. She looked eager and ready to go. "I asked Wang Sheng if it's still possible to start calling you senior brother now." Wang Sheng was speechless for a moment. "Senior brother? You're joking." Then, the elder Taoist in charge announced that next would be a tea ceremony presentation, a chance to fill in any gaps. Concealment complete. Wang Sheng sheathed his sword and prepared to leave. Now, I doubt anyone will dare underestimate Wudang again. After stepping off the stage, Wang Sheng returned the sword to senior brother Zhou. But when Zhou Yinglong took the sword, he felt that calling Wang Sheng junior brother now seemed somewhat inappropriate. What kind of realm is this? To have such an astonishing understanding of swordsmanship. Are you sure he's a sword immortal? But he's just a third-generation disciple, right? Yet he's already reached the divine realm. Then, Wang Sheng began demonstrating the seven-star sword formation. He transformed into countless afterimages, stepping on the seven stars, constantly shifting. Finally, he thrust his sword towards the sky. Amazingly, it pierced several holes into the sky above. Everyone was stunned by this sight. After saying this, Wang Sheng leaps into the air. Sword energy surges around him. The old Taoist host looks on, unable to help but exclaim, "The sword heart is truly clear. It's definitely the sword intent clarity mentioned in ancient texts." He stood still. Muttering, he raises his sword to pluck the stars. The sword falls, exchanging for the bright moon. "How is the sword technique? It doesn't count as Taoist magic." He humbly replied that the senior brother's sword possesses a restrained divine light. Thus, some ordinary eyes may not recognize it. "I have a somewhat flashy sword. It's just right for concealing it." Then Wang Sheng closed his eyes. "He's indeed a much better fit than I am." So he handed the sword to Wang Sheng with both hands. "Brother, you is not skilled enough. Thank you for your trouble, junior brother." Wang Sheng took the sword. "Let me do it." Zhou Yinglong thought for a moment. "My uncle once said, junior brother's swordsmanship is profound. It's more suitable for him to go on stage." Everyone immediately burst into laughter. Zhou Yinglong was at a loss, standing there, unsure of what to do. Fortunately, at that moment, Wang Sheng stepped forward. "Senior Zhou." Zhou Yinglong on stage couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat. At this moment, that young man with yellow hair spoke up again. "Don't speak recklessly. Be careful, this senior from Wudang can unleash 3,000 sword auras with one strike, and wipe you all out instantly." As soon as these words were spoken, "Isn't it a bit inappropriate to talk about sword techniques? Isn't there a sword control technique in Wudang?" "Right, previously there was no celestial energy at all. Naturally, Wudang looks down on that so-called sword control technique." Hearing the mockery from the audience, he was ready to perform the Wudang Tai sword technique. But before the performance even began, laughter erupted from the audience. The Wudang sword is indeed exquisite, but what everyone is recording today is all about Taoism. At this moment, the old Taoist presiding over the competition stepped forward to smooth things over, saying that each of the three sects had their own strengths. Of course, it also has its own highlights. Let's invite the next dojo to demonstrate. As soon as the words were spoken, Zhou Yinglong represented Wudang and stepped onto the stage with his sword, lying on a chair not far away. It seemed like he was also a captive from the three sects. It was unclear if he was from Dragon Tiger Mountain or Gazhou Mountain. However, from the tone of his voice, Wang Sheng could tell he had some conflict with the Maoshan Taoist. "I could watch 7 acts for just 1 yuan. And they'd even give me some change back." Really made us captives of the three sects proud. Wang Sheng and senior sister looked in the direction of the sound, and saw a young man with blonde hair. As expected, Suzy, it's impossible for each family to share their own Taoist techniques. At that moment, a bloodthirsty voice suddenly came from behind. "So, this is the famous Maoshan Taoist technique? Impressive, indeed. When I was a kid under the overpass." With a swoosh sound, the captive actually transformed into a sword. And then, in an instant, he made it disappear. After watching the performance of this Maoshan disciple, Wang Sheng and senior sister were left speechless. He then walked onto the stage. He pulled out a captured object. He said, "Excuse my clumsiness." Then he started infusing the spiritual tool into it. The captive gradually began to take shape. The senior sister nodded. Then a disciple from Mao Shan stepped forward. "Since that's the case, I'll go first for Mao Shan. Consider it a way to inspire others." But before taking the stage, he still wanted to remind his senior sister, if she really has to go up, there's no need to show off too much skill. Just showing off your skills is enough. And announced the official start of the assembly. First, the disciples from various sects will take the stage to demonstrate their cultivation. Upon hearing this, Wang Xing immediately understood. This Taoist exchange conference is actually a Taoist background check, isn't it? Some even think Wudong is just here for the show. They even spent money to hire a beautiful female disciple to gain fame. Little do they know, this Wudong female disciple can crush everyone present. An elder Taoist from the Maoshan sect presided over the event. He could already imagine what would happen next. It seems the fellow cultivators can only hope for the best. The world's energy is reviving. The declining sect of immortal cultivation rises again. But Wudong, originally famous for its martial arts and swordsmanship, is looked down upon. Today, we can finally sigh in relief. Upon hearing this, Wang Sheng was about to say that their master reminded them to keep a low profile, but before he could finish, his senior sister nodded and agreed immediately. This made Wang Sheng feel a bit troubled. "They'll ask some of you to spar." Speaking of which, Uncle Li suddenly looked at Mu Wanxian with shining eyes. He showed a kind and friendly smile. "Bu Yu, as long as you step in and make a move, you'll impress everyone." Wang Xing didn't know what to do. At that moment, Uncle Li sighed. "You should all be somewhat familiar with the current situation. All the sects are waiting to see us make fools of ourselves. During the Taoist exchange later, there's an 80% chance. Could you discuss lowering the volume a bit? Otherwise, I'm afraid I won't be able to hold my senior sister back." Sure enough, Wang Xing turned his head and saw his senior sister sending him an expression meme saying she wants to hit him 10 times. Could she have been hired with money? Wang Xing felt somewhat helpless listening to these discussions. Dao Qing had just revived. It's understandable that Taoism and martial arts are not taken seriously. Directors. He greeted everyone warmly. However, there are still many sects discussing Wudong. These days, it's no longer the era of martial arts and swordsmanship. Wudong actually came to join the excitement. They even brought out a beautiful female disciple to gain fame. There are indeed some impressive figures among the younger generation. Soon, the afternoon arrived. In front of the palace square of Maoshan's restart, all the sects sent their people, gathering here. Uncle Li walked at the front. Not even the skin was broken. Seeing this, Lu Yunji couldn't help but think, this skill displayed is remarkable. Compared to that arrogant jerk from Dragon Tiger Mountain, you're just as fearless. As expected of Wudong. If it weren't for the two of you speaking carelessly behind my back, this wouldn't have happened. As he spoke, Lu Yunji picked up what he had just used to ambush the blonde. To his surprise, it was a small foot steamer. And it was intact. What kind of skill is it to attack in the dark? If you look down on Mao Shan disciples, then come out and teach us. At this moment, Lu Yunji bent down and interrupted them. After all, if you've done something bad and don't run, are you going to stay and fight? The two disciples of Mao Shan were shouting angrily on the spot. Who dares to do this? Can't admit it. The guy with yellow hair was suddenly hit. He shouted, "Who's attacking me from the shadows?" Wang Xing turned to look at his senior sister. Without thinking, he knew it was definitely her doing. So he grabbed her hand and quickly walked away. Wang Xing turned around to take a look. He immediately understood. It turns out they were looking for someone to spar with. Seeing them so arrogant, someone quickly lost patience and gave one of the guys with yellow hair a hit. But before they got far, he suddenly heard a wave of mockery behind him. Everyone is focused on cultivating and understanding the Tao now. What are the Wudong disciples doing here making a fuss? Do they want to perform swordplay and martial arts? I am Zhou Yinglong from Wudong Mountain, greetings to all of you. After some brief pleasantries, both parties bid farewell. This left Wang Xing a bit puzzled. He couldn't figure out what the group from Maoshan was up to. Were they just here to say hello? However, while they were wandering around, a voice suddenly came from behind them. I wonder which family you all belong to. Dao Yu from Maoshan, Lu Yunji, greets everyone. Everyone turns around and introduces themselves. After all, it's not easy to come to Maoshan. We should buy some local specialties for the master. Just then, the other disciples were also getting ready to go out and buy something. So they decided to go out together for a stroll, to experience the charm of Maoshan. But this is the outside world after all. Huang Xing felt it was a bit inappropriate, so he refused. Senior sister got angry because of that. So today, he came early to comfort senior sister. He plans to take senior sister out for a walk. Were you waiting for me? Are you mad? I didn't expect senior sister to immediately give him a "come comfort me" meme. It turns out that last night when they checked into the hotel, senior sister wanted to sleep in the same room with Wang Xing like they did on the mountain. So everyone rested at the hotel for the night. But the next morning, The senior sister was sitting alone in her room, sulking and playing on her phone. Wang Sheng carefully opened the door, and asked, "Senior sister." Shortly after, the bus arrived at the hotel at the foot of Mount Mao. Since the Taoist gathering won't officially start until tomorrow afternoon, Uncle Li told them to take this time to rest well. They could also explore and look around. Don't overwork yourself. At the same time, Wang Sheng made a silent resolution in his heart. In his previous life, he only lived to 31. There were many things he never truly experienced. This time, everything is different, and he is determined to protect those around him. It was bought for senior sister. After she got a new phone, her skills with using emojis improved significantly. Nowadays, when it comes to emoji battles, everyone here is probably trash. He couldn't help but ask, "Are you looking forward to it?" To his surprise, his senior sister immediately sent him several emoji reactions. This move was really something. Wang Sheng felt a bit helpless. The phone was something he had arranged before. With the revival of Daoqing today, I'm afraid Dao martial arts will be looked down upon or even ignored by other schools. As he thought about it, Wang Sheng and his senior sister followed the group onto the bus. After getting on the bus, Wang Sheng noticed his senior sister gazing out the window. Wang Sheng could clearly sense that their auras had also reached the giant god realm. He couldn't help but marvel in his heart. The strength of Wudang is truly not to be underestimated. However, Wudang's core inheritance belongs to the Zhenwu lineage. Most of its Dao techniques are similar to martial arts. That scene would be really hard to imagine. At that moment, Uncle Li waved at the two of them. Wang Sheng took his senior sister to meet their martial uncle. Afterward, martial uncle Li introduced a few other third-generation disciples of the Wudang sect. They were the sword cultivator Zhou Yinglong, Pixiu, Hao Lin, and Meng Hong. Seeing senior sister's cute and silly appearance, Wang Sheng couldn't help but smile wryly. Senior sister is so beautiful. If someone were to act inappropriately, and senior sister slapped them. Wang Sheng smiled helplessly. He reminded his senior sister that if someone takes pictures of you, just pretend you didn't see it. Don't hurt anyone. Senior sister ate while nodding in agreement. All major cultivation sects are reclaiming their heritage, gathering at Maoshan for a showdown. Wang Sheng and his senior sister represent Wudang to stabilize the situation. Zigong just came down from the mountain. Their outfits attracted onlookers to take pictures. Wang Sheng felt a bit helpless. "Master, didn't you say to keep a low profile?" But he still cooperated and took a photo. The world's spiritual energy is reviving. The whole world has entered the era of cultivation. Qin Lianzi then gave Wang Sheng a push and said, "Go on over there. Get a picture of the two of you. The master is going to post on social media. Let them feel envious. Try to keep a low profile." You know, Wang Sheng patted his chest and assured, "Master, don't worry. I'm good at keeping a low profile." At that moment, senior sister Mu Wanxian walked out in a Taoist robe. Wang Sheng was stunned. The next morning, Wang Sheng had packed his suitcase early and was waiting at the door. His mentor reminded him to be humble and patient on this trip. He should not bully the weak, nor should he flaunt his abilities. Wang Sheng has improved a lot. He can now help his senior sister organize her personal belongings. The realm of remaining unflustered, but there are exceptions. Some things, when seen too often, can indeed destabilize one's resolve. But he also knew that people's hearts are treacherous. It's never as tranquil and carefree as up in the mountains. And his senior sister, with her simple mind and beauty like that of a celestial being, could really be deceived by others. However, over the past few years, and don't get into other people's cars easily. The men down the mountain are unreliable. Always take care of your junior brother, no matter what. Mu Wanxian nodded in agreement to everything. Wang Sheng smiled at his master's persistent nagging. Naturally, she couldn't avoid her master's constant reminders. For example, keep your phone with you after going down the mountain. If the battery runs low, use a power bank to charge it. Don't talk to strangers casually. Then, Qin Yanzi began explaining to Wang Sheng the important things to note when he and senior sister follow Uncle Li to the exchange conference. However, compared to Wang Sheng, senior sister Mu Wanxian grew up in the mountains. Her mind is pure, free of distractions. I challenge you to a life and death duel right now. Meanwhile, Wang Sheng, who was eavesdropping outside, was trying hard not to laugh, thinking, master's skill of being subtly cheeky is getting more and more refined. Evening quickly arrived. After finalizing the details with Qin Yanzi, Li Shiwu took his leave. Li Shilu was so frustrated that he almost cried. I know your cultivation level is high, and your disciple is talented, but do you really have to show off like this? If my level weren't lower than yours. Xiao Xian broke through to the Jiat Tai realm a few months ago, but I only recently saw him. His apprenticeship started late, so his realm is somewhat lower than Xiao Xian's. Senior sister has barely reached the late stage of the Shen realm. Li Shimu was stunned and speechless. Have Feiyu and the others already broken through to the fetal stage realm? Qin Yanzi was very frustrated and let out a sigh. It's just as so. The old Taoist just entered the divine realm. Can you consider my feelings? Then Qin Yanzi spoke again. although I can't go, my 2 disciples really fit your requirements. Upon hearing this, such a Versailles statement instantly crushed Li Shuwu. He couldn't help but curse inwardly. You're a Taoist, can you stop being so pretentious? So what if your cultivation level is higher? The Void Dan realm is amazing. Qin Yanzi turned his head and smiled faintly. It's not that I've fallen. It's just that a few months ago I broke through to the Void Core realm. It might not be appropriate for me to go now. While speaking, Qin Yanzi casually condensed a ball of energy in his hand. Qin Yanzi said in a deep voice, if you're looking for the battlefield of the cultivators with the Jiatai mirror, I'm afraid I can't go. Li Shuwu panicked upon hearing this. Senior brother, have you lost your cultivation level? How is that possible? But his cultivation is low, and if someone were to deliberately test him, he might not be able to hold the situation. So I had no choice but to ask senior brother Qin Yanzi for help. After learning the situation, it was precisely because of this exchange conference that Uncle Li Shuwu came to ask senior brother Qin Yanzi for help. Li Shuwu felt helpless about this. From the sect master senior brother to the 2 uncles, they all said cultivation is the priority, yet they pushed this matter onto him. Since the resurgence of spiritual energy, most sects have reclaimed their legacies. Naturally, they are not willing to be lonely. Recently, over 20 prominent sects plan to hold an exchange meeting in Maoshan to explore each other's backgrounds. Wang Xing also spent 3 years on Wudong Mountain. But today, just today, the originally mundane days of cultivation were temporarily disrupted by the visit of a Taoist priest. And this visitor was none other than Li Shishu, who had come to witness his initiation earlier. However, Wang Xing's current concern is whether this counts as damaging the official business of Wudong Mountain. Qin Yanzi smiled and said it doesn't count. Before long, spring turned to autumn. Time was unknown in the mountains. They truly possessed cultivation. Not long after, Wang Xing practiced the 7-star sword formation to a proficient level, piercing through the wall with just a wooden sword. Qin Lianzi felt greatly comforted upon seeing this. They too must take on the responsibility of vanquishing demons and upholding the Tao. After a brief explanation, the lives of the 3, master and disciples, returned to their usual calm. Everything seemed to remain largely unchanged, but with the enhancement of true essence. After taking a brief rest, the master began to recount the Taoist events from 1,000 years ago. At the same time, he warned them that the world was changing, and chaos would naturally follow, as practitioners of Taoism. As for the master, ever since the Emperor of Heaven awakened, from his initial state, he has been in a meditative state. It wasn't until 3 days later, that the master finally emerged. The harvest is more abundant than the years of hard work in the last life. This is thanks to the activation of the true essence within. His understanding of the 7-star sword formation has entered another level. The wooden sword used for practice now can no longer withstand his true essence and sword shadows. And senior sister is exceptionally gifted. Her improvement goes without saying. Even his cultivation level has reached new heights. In just one night, his true energy has become several times purer. It's just a bit more refined. Ordinary cultivators can't rely on him to break through their realms. He is clearly someone who has broken through his limits. It's evident that he has accumulated decades of cultivation to achieve this breakthrough today. The master's accumulation is truly terrifying. Wang Sheng was filled with surprise. He could see that his master was about to break through. He was about to reach the Sudan stage. At the same time, he couldn't help but sigh. Although the initial stage of the heavens and earth is good, and pointed towards their master, Qin Yanzi. At the place where Qin Yanzi stood, a pillar of light shot into the sky. Qin Yanzi was breaking through, and he broke through the 4 barriers in a row. Moments later, Wang Xing finished his cultivation. He opened his eyes, and saw his senior sister looking at him with concern. Wang Xing instinctively wanted to ask if she was done teasing him, but she raised her hand to stop him. The circulation of energy began. The speed was more than 10 times faster than before. This must be the enhancement brought to cultivators by the primordial energy of heaven and earth. It seems that after today, the earth is about to enter a new era. The master still worried about his little disciples' meridians not being fully opened. This kindness, how can he repay it in the future? With the help of the King Lianzi, Wang Sheng's entire body's meridians were unblocked. Wang Sheng was deeply moved. You have to know that the first breath of spiritual energy to revive after 1,000 years of silence is an invaluable treasure for practitioners. If you miss this opportunity in this life, you may never encounter it again. But even under these circumstances, don't miss the opportunity. Your senior sister's meridians are already unblocked. She has now entered a meditative state. I will lend you a helping hand to open up all your meridians. Just as Wang Sheng turned to remind his master and senior sister, Qin Yanzi suddenly appeared behind him. Let him be quiet. Meditate and circulate. The core principles of our sect. Qin Yanzi widened his eyes in shock. The energy of heaven and earth is finally coming. The energy of heaven and earth is awakening. The earth is about to welcome the era of universal cultivation. Qin Yanzi and his apprentice, who are on Wudong Mountain, felt the change in energy immediately. So, he has been practicing in the courtyard, constantly paying attention to the changes in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. He's preparing to inform his master and senior sister as soon as possible, so they won't miss this opportunity. At this moment, the master and apprentice who were eating glutinous rice balls suddenly stopped their actions. It's Lantern Festival today. Wang Sheng is practicing swordsmanship in the courtyard. During this time, he has a renowned master guiding him. His gains are much stronger than in his previous life, according to his past life's memories. Today should be the day when vital energy revives. But he still needs to remind her. You can only play for half an hour. Otherwise, you'll definitely be sleepy all day tomorrow. Master will scold us again. Soon the time comes to the 15th day of the first month. Then she took out a Go board, preparing to play a game of Gamoku with Wang Sheng. Only then did Wang Sheng realize he had misunderstood. The senior sister is as pure as a blank sheet of paper. She has no concept of that kind of thing at all. Baby looks upset. It seems senior sister is really looking forward to her moving in. Her reaction does seem a bit inappropriate. So Wang Sheng awkwardly explained that he just felt a little embarrassed. At this point, senior sister seemed to have suddenly thought of something, unsure of what the master meant. Could it be that the master wanted to match him and senior sister? At this moment, senior sister suddenly reached out and poked his face. Wang Sheng turned his head and saw senior sister. With a "junior brother is ignoring me" expression. It can't keep you warm anymore. Wang Sheng looked completely helpless. But by night, he still had to sleep in the same room as senior sister. Then he curled up alone in the quilt. Qin Yanzi placed a hand on his shoulder, and said earnestly, "Be simpler. Young man, this is also a test of your character. By the way, remember to change the bedding for you and your senior sister. His quilt has been used for 7 or 8 years. I'm fine." However, Qin Yanzi leaned in with a mischievous grin. "What, could it be that you have feelings for your senior sister?" Wang Sheng smiled awkwardly. "How could I be that kind of person? Falling snow isn't as cold as melting snow." So Qin Yanzi suggested that Wang Sheng start sleeping in the same room as his senior sister from tonight. That way, it would be warmer. Wang Sheng quickly blushed and waved at his master. "It's better if senior sister sleeps, and not fall too far behind." When Qin Yanzi saw that Wang Sheng had mastered the 7-star sword formation to a decent level in just 6 months, he was very pleased. He thought Wang Sheng's talent might be higher than he'd initially expected. However, since the weather is getting colder now, he had already become familiar with the entire 7-star sword formation. However, in front of his senior sister, he still did not have the slightest qualification to feel proud. All he can do now is constantly push himself, trying to keep up with senior sister's pace. Every day, in addition to meditation and practice, studying the Tao scriptures, and listening to the master speak, all remaining time and energy were devoted to mastering the 7-star sword formation. In half a year, catching ghosts, driving away evil, alchemy, or medicine, he's mastered them all. Wang Sheng still doesn't know how master managed to acquire so many skills in just 40 short years of life, with such an extraordinary master and senior sister above him. During this time, Wang Sheng, she doesn't understand why there should be distinctions between men and women. This leaves him rather troubled. But compared to senior sister, Master Qin Jianzi is obviously even more extraordinary, whether it's discussing scriptures, capturing weapons. His profound understanding of the Tao seems ingrained in his very bones. If one could say that a common man like him can only follow the Tao without practicing it, then senior sister is someone who walks with the Tao in the mortal world. However, it seems that senior sister doesn't quite understand matters between men and women. He has come to know his master and senior sister more and more. He increasingly feels like a lumberjack who accidentally wandered into a den of immortals. Because both his master and senior sister are true prodigies. His senior sister is pure of heart, free of distractions. So he decided to train like mad, quickly go down to fix it. The cold winter has arrived. Wang Sheng has unknowingly been on the mountain for half a year. Through this time together, in this life, everything is laid out before him. If he doesn't work hard now, it would truly be a waste of this chance at rebirth. And compared to his senior sister, he's still far behind. With the experience of over 40 years of exploring the Tao in his past life, in just one afternoon, he had already memorized half of the entire sword technique. But he had no intention of relaxing at all. In his previous life, he was troubled by the lack of a systematic cultivation method. I don't want to always be inferior to senior sister in the future. After all, with such a cute senior sister, of course I have to protect her. Qin Yanzi smiled and said, "Now that's more like it." Then Wang Sheng continued practicing the 7-star sword formation. "Look at you, so spineless." Wang Sheng rubbed his head, grinning foolishly. "That's just a short-term goal. I'm nowhere near senior sister right now. As long as I keep striving, pursuing without giving up, one day, I'll be able to touch senior sister's sleeve." When Qin Yanzi heard how unambitious he was, he flicked his forehead. "That would already be excellent. There's no need to rush. Let's start with the basics of dismantling moves." Wang Sheng nodded seriously. "I will never let down master's efforts. Just as Wang Sheng was still in a daze, Qin Yanzi had already finished demonstrating the sword technique. He placed a branch in Wang Sheng's hand, and said, "You should practice this sword technique, if you can make some progress in 3 years." Wang Sheng was utterly shocked upon seeing this. It's the profound realm of the 7 swords of shadow. This is the way of the Tao propelled by the world's vital energy. But isn't the world's vital energy still dormant? How did the master achieve this? Then, Qin Yanzi's toes lightly touched the ground, turning into countless afterimages. Stepping on the 7 stars, the battle never ceases. Finally, the 7 swords unite as one, converging at a single point. It emphasizes body movement transitions. Footwork is key, if cultivated to perfection. One disappears, and the sword remains in the heart. Baidu's spiritual vision. Demons and monsters vanquished. You must get revenge for me. Senior sister smiled and nodded. At that moment, Master Qin Yanzi called Wang Sheng over. Today, he would teach Wang Sheng a technique that rivals senior sister Mu Wanchuan's Yinyang Bagua. This sword formation is called the 7-star sword formation. He practiced so hard, yet he couldn't even touch the corner of her clothes. Is the gap between me and a potential master really this big? So, Wang Sheng asked his senior sister with a tearful voice, "What should I do if I'm bullied in the future?" This is the origin of martial cultivation. It is also called Taoist martial arts. After a long duel with my senior sister, Wang Sheng was completely overwhelmed. He even started to doubt his life. In the end, even a skilled woman cannot cook without rice. Taoist arts became mere decorations. Those who practiced Taoism lost their energy. Yet, they needed protection. So they expanded the combative aspects of Taoist arts. To protect themselves, for the sake of the Tao, they acted with chivalry through these techniques. Qimen Duanjia, the 2 forms, 8 trigrams, Taoist arrays, alchemy, and energy cultivation. These Taoist arts once flourished in those years. Unfortunately, the earth's energy gradually depleted. Martial cultivation, to be precise, is a method of defending the Tao through practice. When the primal energy of heaven and earth still existed, cultivators sought the truth while cultivating the Tao. Comprehending the great Tao, they also practiced Taoist arts and techniques. Qin Yanzi began teaching Wang Sheng everything about cultivation methods, scriptures, and more. He passed on all his knowledge to him. Naturally, this included the current focus on martial cultivation within the Taoist sect. Since Wang Sheng had been a disciple for 2 months, Qin Yanzi sent Mu Wanxian to test his abilities. He actually let his little disciple help his senior sister warm the bed because it was cold. He even called it a way to keep warm by sleeping in the same room. And senior sister looks pretty happy about it too. After completing the ceremony to become a disciple, eating grapes, while listening to Wang Sheng recite scriptures, he couldn't help but think of the master's words, asking him to take good care of his junior brother. He decided to put in more effort to care for his junior brother in the future. What kind of immortal master is this? She took out a grape and offered it to him. Wang Sheng turned his head, and the grape went straight into his mouth. Smiling, he thanked the senior sister. Then Mu Wanxian sat on the chair. But looking at her now, it's really hard to associate her with the image of the silent immortal. After finishing the snacks, Wang Sheng started flipping through the scriptures given by the master. At this moment, the senior sister suddenly tapped his shoulder. Wang Sheng habitually asked his senior sister if she wanted to grab a snack. But when he turned around, he found that she had already disappeared. Turns out she was already eating. This made Wang Sheng marvel at how truly extraordinary her skills were. No wonder she ranks in the top 10 of the heavenly list. Wang Sheng respectfully received the scripture, and thanked his master with a face full of joy. The one transmitting the teachings, Li Qingqing, said the disciple must go accompany Uncle Master Li for a vegetarian meal. He asked Wang Sheng and the others to clean up the place. As soon as they left, "Your name will change to Fei Yu, rumor. Today, I pass on to you a scripture left by the pure young immortal of our sect. You have half a month to copy it down. It will be the foundation for your future cultivation. You must revere this scripture. Now that you have entered the door, you must understand the master's lineage. Our lineage traces back to the great master Lu Dongbin. Once you've entered, speak humbly. Your senior sister's Taoist name is Bu Yu, silent. By noon, you will formally join the sect." The next day at noon, Qin Yanzi invited Uncle Master Li as the witness. Let Wang Shengui stand before the image of the founder. This marks the beginning of the formal initiation. I will invite a senior Taoist master to be a witness and initiate you. At dawn tomorrow, you will get up, offer incense, and bathe. Before long, a month passed. Qin Yanzi called Wang Sheng over. He told him that he had been here for a month. Now that the initial training is over, you have performed well. The only drawback was that the effects of the turbid energy were quite obvious, causing his senior sister to cover her nose in disgust. He hurriedly escaped from his room. However, Qin Yanzi smiled. He felt that Wang Sheng was indeed a good seed. He could already sense the general location of the meridians in his body. Taking this opportunity, Wang Sheng also tried to practice the foundational techniques he obtained in his previous life. Although there was still little effect, The frequency and quality of expelling the turbid energy in his body had noticeably improved. It was just enough to exhaust his stamina, to make him feel deep fatigue. Every 3 days, Master would also help stimulate his meridians. Because of the residual internal energy from Master inside him, after 2 or 3 times. Today, I won't give you too much time to rest. You need to be mentally prepared. When Yan Wang has become more motivated, although Master said he increased his magic power, he didn't give him tasks beyond his limits. Wang Sheng has felt light as a swallow. I also feel much more energetic than yesterday. Qin Yanzi nodded slightly, pleased, looking quite impressive. Yesterday was just to help you get used to it. In that case, he must not disappoint Master. So the next day, Wang Sheng got up early to practice. I don't know if it's just a psychological effect, but since I got out of bed, the Earth's vitality has not yet recovered. Master achieved this accomplishment through years of hard training since childhood. He must have put in a lot of effort. Now Master is actually using the hard-earned inner strength to help him mend his broken meridians. How could he not be moved by this? And his body was somewhat stiff. So, he was preparing to help Wang Sheng by massaging his meridians. As they talked, Qin Yanzi placed his hands on Wang Sheng's abdomen. Wang Sheng could feel that his master's palms seemed to alternate between cold and warm energy. This must be the internal energy that martial artists always strive for. Suddenly, he sat up alertly. It turned out to be his master, Qin Yanzi. Qin Yanzi told Wang Sheng to lie down and sleep peacefully. He came so late because Wang Sheng joined the sect a bit later. His meridians were blocked. He didn't know how long it had been. In a daze, he seemed to see someone in front of him. They asked if he was awake. Wang Sheng rubbed his eyes. He saw clearly who it was. However, Wang Sheng did not feel the slightest bit discouraged. Instead, he prepared to meditate for a while before going to sleep. But just as he settled into a cross-legged meditation posture, his eyelids couldn't help but droop. Then he fell asleep directly. But as her soon-to-be junior brother, he couldn't take advantage of her. But the current senior sister looked so different from the mute fairy I remember from my past life. At that moment, he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his arm. It seems to be caused by practicing martial arts during the day. Indeed, today's formal training wasn't that easy. He said goodnight. And then, with a bang, closed the door. After that, Wang Sheng returned to his own room. But his face was still flushed as he recalled what had just happened. He hadn't expected senior sister to be so unguarded in front of him. I saw my senior sister drowsily preparing to take off the last piece of clothing, revealing an inappropriate scene. Wang Sheng quickly closed his eyes. He returned the clothes to senior sister, then let her go inside to change. This is how the roots of my poor communication were laid. As a junior disciple, I must take good care of my senior sister in the future. But as I was thinking, a shirt suddenly fell on her head. Mu Wanxian groggily responded with a sound. Then she walked straight into the room. Watching senior sister's back, Wang Sheng recalled what his master had said before. When senior sister was young, she had suffered from a serious illness. Unknowingly, Wang Sheng practiced until nightfall, but when he turned around, he found that senior sister had fallen asleep leaning against the door. Helpless, Wang Sheng had no choice but to wake her up. He told her to go back to bed. It contains hidden intricacies. Wang Sheng didn't expect that as soon as he started, he would learn such a refined technique. This made him very happy. He decided to master this set of moves today. He began to guide Wang Sheng in practice. After finishing the entire set, Wang Sheng felt a warmth throughout his body. It seemed like a stream of energy was circulating inside him. Although the set of moves taught by the master is simple, consider it as an entry gift for Wang Sheng. Wang Sheng looked surprised. I didn't expect to start practicing so soon. The two quickly arrived at the backyard. After Qin Lianzi demonstrated a set of boxing techniques, each bottle costs between 20 and 100. Can you sell more than 10 bottles a day? This completely shattered Wang Sheng's image of his master in certain ways. Then, Qin Yanzi called Wang Sheng to the backyard. He wanted to demonstrate a set of martial arts. Wang Sheng was completely stunned on the spot. After a while, Qin Yanzi finally noticed him. He proudly started introducing his side business. This is specifically designed for the devotees who pray for blessings. But when he returned to his place, he was completely petrified on the spot, asking his master in disbelief what he was doing. At that moment, he saw Qin Yanzi holding a brush, writing on the bottles of mineral water. After writing, the cheapest bottle of mineral water became Wudang Mountain's holy water. That even though there was spring water available on the mountain, his master still wanted him to buy 2 boxes of the cheapest mineral water from the foot of the mountain. However, Wang didn't think much of it. He figured that his master must have his reasons for doing so, and all he had to do was follow orders. Isn't he going to walk with swagger from now on? Just now, Wang went down the mountain to let his parents know he was safe. Then he took his bedding and went back up the mountain. But what puzzled him was, a man was just a small scattered sleeve in the era of spiritual revival. Unexpectedly, he was reborn. He returned to before the spiritual revival. He successfully became a disciple of the future top 5 on the heavenly ranking. Moreover, He has a beautiful senior sister in the top 10 of the heavenly ranking to accompany him. But unexpectedly, the next second, a loud bang came from the room, followed by the sound of heavy breathing. It turned out Wang Sheng had fallen asleep while meditating. Both master and disciple couldn't help but burst out laughing. This is truly worth praising. He signaled for him to come over. The two peeked their heads into the room, and saw Wang Sheng meditating seriously. Only then did they pull their heads back, satisfied. Qin Yanzi couldn't help but praise, "Look at your junior, he's quite proper." Additionally, after the afternoon nap, you can go down the mountain to see your parents. Let them feel at ease. After saying this, Qin Yanzi left gracefully. But not long after, he returned again. He waved at Mu Wanqian, who was playing snake. Wang Sheng quickly took it and thanked her. "Thank you, senior sister." After resting for a while, Qin Yanzi arranged a room for him, and mentioned that his room is in the side house. "If there's anything, you can come find me." But he's also quite exhausted. Although he's been doing physical training for months, he's never done this kind of hard labor before. It was his first time, so he wasn't used to it. At that moment, senior sister Mu Wanqian brought him a bowl of water out of concern, and take it one step at a time. Seeing this scene, the young man who was meditating nodded in satisfaction. Before long, noon arrived, and Wang Sheng finally finished grinding 2 bags of flour. Although it's nice to be sheltered under a big tree, in the end, nothing is more important than one's own strength. Even if he can't compare to the senior sister, he shouldn't end up doing too poorly in the future. But for now, it's best to stay grounded. These cultivators progress much faster than ordinary people. Speaking of which, Wang Sheng became more motivated. He thought that once he passed the entrance exam for magic, his master would definitely teach him some cultivation methods. Indeed, even with the constant lack of natural spiritual energy, the lineage of cultivation has not been broken. Even if it's just a process of calming the mind, this kind of practice accumulated over the years is still incredibly formidable. No wonder after the revival of the world's energy, Qin Yanzi called Mu Wanqian to come out and train. The two sat cross-legged. They began their practice. A swirl of spiritual energy surrounded them. Wang Sheng watched this scene with great envy. Then she started grinding, step by step. This calm and composed behavior was noticed by Qin Yanzi. Soon, sunlight broke through the clouds, dispelling the surrounding cold. The disciple would never give up. Then Qin Yanzi instructed him to first grind 2 bags of wheat into flour. Wang Sheng took off his coat. "Let's get straight to work." First, she placed some wheat. "You need to be mentally prepared. If you can't hold on, I won't force you to stay on the mountain. Do you understand?" Wang Sheng immediately straightened his back, stating that as long as it wasn't the master driving the disciple down the mountain. Mu Wanqian nodded. Then several of them went inside. Qin Yanzi once again solemnly told Wang Sheng that even though you call me master, there's still a period of assessment before you can cross the river. But soon he was at ease. If he were a normal kid, who would be willing to suffer up on the mountain? It's the senior sister. Please take good care of the junior brother in the future. Isn't he going to walk around with confidence from now on? Seeing Wang Sheng standing there, grinning at thin air, senior sister Mu Wanqian asked her master in confusion. Is something wrong with his mind? Qin Yanzi was silent for a moment. Then he immediately lost his composure, becoming extremely excited. It was because this senior sister, Mu Wanqian, was known as the silent immortal in her previous life, and, like Taoist Qin Yanzi, ranked among the top 10 masters on the heavenly list. Now he has 2 experts to protect him. Then they arrived at the residence. Qin Yanzi introduced Wang Sheng to his senior sister, Mu Wanqian. When Wang Sheng heard this name, he was stunned for a moment. "Usually, it's just me and your senior sister here. For now, you can stay with us for a while." Wang Sheng followed behind, panting heavily. He said something, to let him stay on Wudong Mountain. But Qin Yanzi still needed to tell Wang Sheng, "Now you are just my apprentice. We'll decide whether to officially take you as an apprentice after the probation period. This is where I live." Wang Sheng ultimately revealed that the answer was to save my dad. But what he never expected was that he actually succeeded. Moreover, Qin Yanzi also convinced his parents. First save the parents. That is to undermine the master. The so-called master is like a parent. This is being inconsistent in word and deed. Due to the 3, Wang Sheng was left dumbfounded. He thought to himself, save my master first. That is unfilial to one's parents. There is a saying in the Taoist teachings. The unfilial cannot admit it. Qin Yanzi revealed a sinister smile. He presented Wang Sheng with a life and death question. If you become my disciple, and then I fall into the water with your dad and am about to drown, who would you save first? After hearing this, if your answers satisfy me, I'll let your parents come and talk to me. Then Qin Yanzi asked 2 questions related to Tao. Wang Sheng answered them all fluently, but when it came to the 3rd question, Wang Sheng quickly replied that my parents came with me. Taoist, I sincerely want to follow you in practice. Qin Yanzi listened and realized that Wang Sheng was not just someone who ran away from home after watching too many novels and movies. So he told Wang Sheng, "You need to answer me 3 questions. Over the years, I've only taken 1 apprentice. I usually don't pay much attention to him. Are you sure you want to be my disciple? Besides, you're the one asking to become a disciple. Do your parents know about this?" "So," she quickly interrupted, "you're quite amusing, little fellow. Talking non-stop about the Tao, becoming a disciple and being picky. I'm just a nominal teacher at Wudong Mountain. It's a different understanding of heaven and the universe. I couldn't find the master I wanted to apprentice under at Wudong Mountain. But as soon as I saw you, I knew you were no ordinary person." Upon hearing this, Jin Lianzi realized it wouldn't end soon. "But all you talk about is cultivating immortality and the Tao. Have you ever seen anyone who can use magic?" However, Wang Sheng thought this was a test from Qin Yanzi, so he immediately started talking non-stop. "Disciple believes it's more of a spirit." As none other than Taoist master Qin Yanzi, one of the top 5 cultivators on the heavenly rankings in his past life. This time, I definitely ran into some good luck. But Qin Yanzi seemed a bit helpless as he listened to him. "Kid, if you said you came to learn martial arts, that would be more reliable." Looking at the unkempt middle-aged Taoist priest promoting himself, Wang Sheng trembled with excitement. Without hesitation, he chose to become his disciple, expressing his willingness to follow the priest in pursuit of immortality. Because he had recognized this priest. This is the authentic Wudong martial heritage. It'll definitely make you unbeatable in the world. Laughing proudly within. If you, young master, have any needs in internal energy cultivation, you can also join the accelerated inner analysis course that I teach. Young man, at your age, you should focus on your studies. Don't be fooled by those stories in the novels. If you really want to learn Kung Fu, I can recommend some Wudong martial arts manuals. Wholesale price, only 300 per book. Before the revival of the world's vital energy, he could be considered a representative of Wudong martial arts. Now he and several other priests were not present. Wang Sheng could only pick up his suitcase in disappointment. He was preparing to leave the mountain and seek another sect to learn the arts. At that moment, a voice suddenly came from a nearby stall, that the Taoist master he was looking for, Gao Shixing, was not on the mountain. He had gone abroad for a performance and wouldn't be back for several months. Wang Sheng was taken aback. Originally, he wanted to pay his respects to this Taoist priest, Gao Shixing, who is ranked among the top 30 in the future heavenly rankings. In his previous life, at Wudong Mountain, he had a certain reputation among the top experts of the immortal Tao. It's just a pity that he wasn't able to take a master. In this life, he is determined to seize the opportunity. But when he finally climbed the mountain and reached the Zixiao Palace, he was told by a young Taoist who was playing on his phone. He told his parents that he wanted to go to Wudong Mountain to become a Taoist. His kind-hearted parents understood his desire very well. They just knocked him out before letting him go. Although the price he paid was a bit severe, Wang Sheng finally arrived at Wudong Mountain to find a master. But unfortunately, the techniques were incomplete. He has now reached a bottleneck. There is only one way to break through. That is to find a master. So he decisively put on his clothes and went to the living room. He must make something of himself. During this time, relying on the techniques obtained in his previous life, he slightly improved his physique. He trained to have 8-pack abs. He ran into a turf war between 2 gangs. As a result, he died inexplicably. He didn't even know who killed him. Fortunately, heaven granted him a chance to be reborn. In this life, he cannot die in a muddled way again. The rockets launched in the news will bring something back from the moon. Let the aura that has been silent for thousands of years awaken once more, making the earth enter an era of universal cultivation. In his previous life, he was just a small loose cultivator. Until the age of 31, young people his age usually just stay at home playing video games, or buy some snacks to pass the time. But he doesn't dare to, because he is a reborn person. He knows that soon. His name is Wang Sheng. He is 17 years old, and he already has an 8-pack abs. He still has to do 1,000 push-ups every day. Logically speaking, a man unexpectedly reborn, back in high school, the first thing he wants to do is tell his parents he wants to become a Taoist priest. Even if his kind parents beat him up, they still can't stop his determination to become a Taoist priest.